Hello, bike fans, and welcome to the Bikes for Death podcast. My name is Patrick, and I am your host. And today on the show, we have Drew Echelberger, who goes by Nightmare the Rusty Robot on Instagram. I first found out about Drew from my friend Tom Hughes that I raced the Grand Gravel 500 with, which I'm actually about to take part in like 10 days from now. And I'm not really ready, but that's okay. I first found out about Drew from Tom, and he told me, he's like, dude, you should check this guy out. He is riding the entire circumference of the United States and will be taking the Southern Tier route, which if you've been listening, you'll know goes like 20 miles past my house. So whenever I know somebody who's going to be on the Southern Tier, I always try to be a warm shower host, cook him some good food, give him a shower, place to sleep, all that jazz. And I also try to hit him up for an interview. So ever since I heard about Drew, I've been watching his progress on Instagram, and he was doing very, very well until he got to Austin, and then he just stopped. And I really wanted to interview him at my house. I wanted to do the whole, go pick him up and cook for him and give him a nice spot and chat with him and all that. But he just kind of stalled out in Austin. So when I was there a month ago, conducting some interviews, I was like, all right, well, I guess this guy's never actually going to make it to College Station. So I'll just go to Austin and interview him there. Anyway, it was a lot of fun to catch up with him finally. It's kind of been funny. It's a long time in the making. And let me tell you, this guy has stories for days. I mean, he's gone so many places. He's ridden his bike, and he hasn't just like gone spot to spot. He's found experiences and people and opportunities along the way. And all of those just lead to stories. And this guy's got a lot of them. So I appreciate him taking the time to sit down with me at a park bench at McKinney Falls State Park in Austin, Texas. The birds were chirping. It was a beautiful day, and it was a great opportunity to have a conversation with somebody who I'd followed for a long time, but just got an opportunity to finally talk to in real life. So I hope you enjoy it. It starts off with a bang. But before we get to the episode, let me remind you that this show is 100% listener supported. There are no advertisers. There's nobody between me and you. It's just me talking to people, sharing their stories in the hope that you will enjoy them, you will be inspired, and you'll get outside and you ride your damn bike. If you've been enjoying the show, do me a huge favor. Head over to bikesfordeath.com. There's lots of ways you can support the show. The main one is Patreon, and I've just released a new Patreon-only podcast called Shifting Gears. Right now, the format of that show is me just recording an audio journal of my experience training for that event, and then I'm also going to take that audio journal along with me on the Grand Gravel 500 that kicks off in 10 days from now, and just going to be sharing what I'm going through. I don't know. I'm just going to be talking to the microphone about whatever the hell I'm thinking, whatever's happening, whatever does happen, where I sleep, why I make the decisions I do. It should be a good time. If you're interested in that and you think you might get something out of it, it's available on Patreon right now. There's already 3 episodes out. I'm about to release the 4th. You can access it for only $1 a month. Please do me a huge favor. Head over to Bikes for Death. Support the show on Patreon. Send a donation on PayPal. Enter the raffle for the Vanner Death Drive. Or buy some merch. Support the show. Rep it. Let your friends know what's up. No matter how you choose to support the show, it is greatly appreciated. And lastly, as always, if you could do me a huge favor, head over to iTunes, review the show, and don't forget, 5 stars is the best. I appreciate it so much. I'm looking forward to this episode, and I hope you are too. So let's quit the shit and get right to it.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
We are now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know, I guess you could kind of test the levels through this or whatever. But the other day I started this 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, did I get here? I don't really believe in this place. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm at this point in my life where I got to just do what I got to do for the moment. But I started thinking about because they were like, oh yeah, he was like some nomad. Blah, 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 blah. Started thinking about all these different places I'd slept and listing them off. I was gonna write a list of most random places I ever slept.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram.
And I started putting it together, and then as I was reading it to myself, I'm falling asleep. I'm like, I could make something out of this. And so I actually haven't even read this out loud. I just wrote it the other night, and it's still rough. It still needs to be edited, but I feel like this kind of encapsulates a lot of the narrative or inspiration I want to capture by documenting bicycle touring.
Yeah.
So,
hit me, man.
Yeah, it's going to be, I've slept on the beach. I've slept on a mountain. I've slept in a cave. I've slept by a fountain. I slept in a park in the dark till the day when the rangers, they asked me to please go away. I've slept in a hut and a shack and out back of all different places all over the map. I've slept in a canyon, on capes, on cliffs, and on coves. I've slept with one eye open. I've slept on my toes. I've even slept in a ditch on the side of the road. And here's a fun fact that'll surely top that. One time I laid flat between two haystacks. I've slept with a dog. I've slept with a cat. I've slept with my shoes on. I've slept in a hat. I've slept with a blanket. I've slept with a blanket. I've slept in a bag. I've slept in a bunk with my name on a tag. I've slept by a river. I've slept by a peak, a canal, an ocean, a lake, and a creek. I've slept by some corn. I've slept by some soy. I slept by a cactus. That brought me much joy. I've slept in the rain. I've slept in the snow. I've slept in the desert when the moon was aglow. I've slept in a barn. I've slept in a house. I've slept on a bed in the arm of a couch. I've slept under roofs and slept under stars, slept on a rug and slept behind bars. Slept in a tent, a hammock, a yurt, a bivvy, a cabin, a mansion, the dirt. On this, in that, under, behind, this, that, and the other. And must I remind you that it's true I did not spend a dime on any of all, not one single time.
Nice.
And then I was like, I've ridden. And so I kind of branched off. I was like, I've ridden.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could keep going.
No, honestly, that was really, I enjoyed that. I mean, that really spoke to me, and it resonated with me. So what I thought was interesting is you're talking about all the places you slept.
And that's literally all true. I have photographs and videos, documented.
No, I don't doubt it. I mean, you can tell by the way it's written, you're conjuring experiences from your past, but that's just the places you've slept. It doesn't even tell the story of the places or all the ways that you got to all those different places,
And then here's the part two. Is this, are these levels good here? Yeah. So.
This fucking thing. Hold on.
Little microphone issues here, people.
There you go. Okay.
And then I want to go into all the things that I've eaten and all the people that I've met. Or I didn't really necessarily say the places that I've been, just the places that I slept. So then I went to the bicycle advisory council meeting at City Hall the other night, and towards the tail end of it, I kind of started zoning out a little bit, just like I would always do in school, when I'm sitting somewhere and just branch off on some tangent.
Those are tough.
And this is what came out of it is I've ridden through tunnels, I've ridden on bridges, I've ridden on causeways, I've ridden on ridges. I've ridden in hailstorms, I've ridden through ditches, I've ridden so hard sweat salt seeped through my breeches. I've ridden across plains, through prairies and passes. I've ridden through hot tar that smelled of molasses. I've ridden on concrete, dirt, sand, and gravel, asphalt and blacktop with sores on my saddle. I've ridden on sidewalks, on trails, and on streets, through cities, counties, states, and countries, small towns and townships and wide open spaces, major metropolises and great big urban places. I've ridden in snow, I've ridden in rain, I've ridden with a squeaky, annoying, dry chain. I've ridden while bonking on slow-leaking tires, while cars were honking while changing my wires or cables or brake pads that snapped or burnt out, while smoking a spliff with sunflower seeds in my mouth. I've ridden when it's sad, I ride when I'm happy, ride when I'm clean or when my hair is nappy. Doesn't matter the place, the time, or condition. It's not an obsession or some type of addiction. My bike is my therapist and my prescription, my transport, my workout, my place to escape. I feel I can fly as my wheels, they rotate on the ground beneath me wherever I go. One day I will show you when I have my own show, just all the places my bike it will go. There are few limits preventing its motion. Those who disagree, their minds are not open. And that's all that I have at the moment.
Dude, that's so
and
good.
I need to cut it down and
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Drew. That's a hell of an introduction, my friend.
Yeah, no, I'm a little over the top all the time.
No, I mean, honestly, like, there's some really good shit in there. A couple things stood out to me. One, I noticed you spent the night in jail.
Well, you know what's funny? Everything is true, but that's the only...
I picked out the one thing.
That's the only line. I was like, it really fits so well, but it's like, I don't know, maybe one day I'll have to just like get locked up and spend the night.
We could probably make that happen
But the
tonight.
thing is, I was actually having this conversation like with myself, and it's on technicality. I have slept behind multiple bars, like restaurant, like a bar.
Yeah.
Slept behind bars.
Yeah.
So
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. No, I mean, you're the artist, so you get that liberty to. That's what the song is.
Sure.
All right. So the other one that stood out to me and was like how your bike is everything. It's your therapist. It's your doctor. It's your transportation. That is it. That's like hitting the nail on the head right there.
I mean, the bicycle, in my opinion, is the greatest invention of all time. Like, I don't remember.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Who said it, but it's. I want to say it was like Ernest Hemingway or something. It's like the bicycle is a peculiar object. Its passenger is also its motor.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, like my bike is a spaceship. My bike is an extension of my personality. Me and my bike, like, we are one, like the big Lebowski, the royal we. Like in my writing, I'll refer to we, like speaking as me and my bike as one unit.
Yeah, we've talked about this before on the show. I mean, you become almost in a relationship with your bike, and it represents an extension of like your personality, your style, the type of riding you like to do.
100%.
And all that other stuff about just like the mental health aspect of it,
Absolutely.
and the physical health, and I mean all the environmental benefits of riding a bicycle. So, yeah, good stuff.
And I mean, I need it for my sanity, like
for sure.
Just,
most
now
of us that
having
do
been
this, I
living in the
believe,
city,
are a
like-
little bit crazy and do it because we're just keeping the devils at bay.
Absolutely.
I mean, speaking about being in jail, I think I've mentioned this before, but like I've been in jail a few times for drug use, like growing up, and at the age of 21 is whenever I was in jail and I was like, fuck this. I'm ready to like actually do something with my life.
Totally.
And I moved and just started over. And the first thing I did is I got on my bike and started riding, and that leads me to today. Like it got me everywhere, all the way from like a serious drug user,
Sure.
with criminal charges and all kinds of fun stuff. It took me from that guy
Mm-hmm.
to, I do stuff now. I have a family.
Right.
I have
Yeah.
kids. I
You got a
have
house.
a job.
You got a job. You're
I
a
do
member
the thing.
of the cycling community that hosts a platform for engagement.
Yeah, I've actually,
And connection.
and I did it. And I'm not being. It became my drug. It became my new focus.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're addicted to a substance, it's consuming a lot of your life. So where do you go when you take that away? And that was a question I had to answer. What am I going to do with my time?
Right. And that's the thing, is how do you use your time? Like bike touring, I feel is a substance. Like the feeling.
Yeah,
the
for sure. It's a drug.
It is a drug, 100%. Like you can't replicate going somewhere you've never been before and meeting people you've never met before and just like being open and being in the moment and having that experience. Like the thrill of like going into like riding into the sunset and knowing you don't have to turn around and come back home, and you don't necessarily know where you're going to eat or where you're going to sleep or where you're going to end up. And it's like, if my legs and my body feel good, I can keep going and ride as long as I want.
Right.
Or if I want to cut it short, just talking to some locals outside of a gas station and somebody offers me a place to crash for the night, I'm totally taking them up on that.
So let's actually circle back and give yourself a little bit of a proper introduction to how you got into cycling. I mean, I don't know where you want to start exactly, but at some point, obviously, you got pretty into cycling and decided to go on a crazy trip.
Sure.
And to take it back even one step further, I interviewed one of your friends,
You
Tom.
did. Tom Hughes, man.
He was like
Tom.
number 4 or 5 on the podcast.
Yeah.
Really early on.
And we were like, he was one of my best training buddies back at home. Like that dude, anytime
so he
I
turned
would
me
do
on to you. He was
anything-
like, dude, you got to check out this guy. He's going to be riding right by you.
Yeah.
I was like, and I love doing, I mean, my route or my house is right on the Southern Tier route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which
And
you
you
were-
are a Warm Showers host on
Yeah.
there? Okay.
So anyway, but you were going to be cruising through.
Right. Eventually.
Eventually.
Still haven't made it there.
Yeah. So I had to come to Austin to interview you.
Right.
So yeah, man, give us a little background
So,
on that.
I mean, like bikes have always been a part of my life, as a kid growing up, but it was, department store bikes, Huffies and Schwinn's and Mongoose. And I never really considered myself like a cyclist. It was just like you rode your bike places, to school, to work, that type of stuff, just like in the neighborhood. And then, after high school, in college, I went to a commuter school. So I spent a lot of time going back and forth in the car on the highway, like 30 minutes each way, each day.
And where's home?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so I went to school at Indiana University Southeast, which is like a small regional branch campus of Indiana University, just across the Ohio River in southern Indiana, in New Albany. And I got into mountain biking while I was in college, and got like a rigid frame, like 26-inch Diamondback from like Dick's Sporting Goods, and just would ride the local trails in Cherokee Park. And I ended up breaking my wrist, my elbow, a couple of ribs. I was always injuring myself on the mountain bike, and it was always in some various state of disrepair, and I'd kind of like fallen
From clumsiness or from
clumsiness, from being a bad mechanic, from not doing preventative maintenance, from just, not really, I guess, respecting.
I didn't know
the
if you were like
investment.
going hard. Like
I was trying to go hard.
Yeah.
I got into Strava. I was trying to catch those KOMs,
yeah.
and
I was there.
I got PR on NoNet or whatever,
Yeah.
Cherokee Park.
Yeah.
And then it was the summer after I had graduated from college, and I worked as a swim instructor and a lifeguard and a swim coach, like all through high school, all through college. Like ran a swim academy, did small group private lessons.
So your cardio is
Emergency
insane.
life survival. Yeah, I was a sprinter growing up,
Oh,
like
God.
swimming, and then I get into long distance.
Well, that's
biking, so
short.
it's complete
Yeah.
opposite ends of the spectrum. But physiologically, like I'm not, I'm 5'7". I carry all my weight in my gut. Like
too.
I'm not in any way, shape, or form. It just naturally, physically gifted, like the swimmers were.
Yeah.
But so they can't do it, teach, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But so this summer, I decided I'm gonna ride my bike to work and bring my lunch from home every day for the whole summer.
Okay.
And this is summer 2014.
Gotcha.
And so I take my dad's old 1987 Peugeot
How far is that?
to work.
Yeah.
It was only like 3.5, 4 miles maybe each way.
It was just making a good habit of riding your bike
Yeah,
every day.
and it was like, save money, get in shape, save the environment, create a routine, exercise, and for all kind of the generic commuter cliche reasons. And I ended up restoring my dad's bike and started riding it, and then it was like, oh, man, I'm going to ride 10 miles, or I'm going to ride 15, I'm going to ride 20 miles, or I'm going to go to a different neighborhood, I'm going to go to a different town, just go explore, just go get lost.
Yeah.
And I started kind of getting addicted to it. And a friend of mine was delivering sandwiches for Jimmy John's downtown and was like, hey man, we need riders if you want to pick up some extra miles. And so I end up start doing that. And I was like filming and documenting like my travels and the places I was going, and it'd come up like with this, I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Like, my ex had moved cross country to San Francisco, taking this job. Like, all my friends were like, going to master's or PhD programs or getting married or having kids and buying houses. And I'm like, I still had no clue, like what I really wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be a researcher. I studied psychology. I studied journalism. I wanted to write. And then I kind of got like just burnt out on the rigor and the structure, and it's like, I just really want to like ride my bike and go swimming. It's like, I want to just ride my bike to all the coolest swimming holes in America and film it and document it, and then like have my own travel show, like pedals and pools, spinning and swimming.
Really?
And
yeah,
it would
you've
be
thought
like
this through.
Curated content where we would highlight the best destination routes from like, say, like a major urban area through some small, wide open spaces, public lands, small towns, to hit these like quarries or cenotes or, little coves or whatever, and stop and take a break and go swim or camp, and then kind of highlight different plant animal species, historically significant, culturally iconic things that happen.
I like
network, plug local businesses, talk about, indigenous culture, anything that's kind of swept under the rug, like the niche little corner hole in the walls of like regional subcultures that maybe nobody's ever heard of, and then like interact with these artist communities and kind of give them a platform to tell their story, almost in like kind of a gonzo journalistic style way. Like Hunter
Dude, you've thought this through, man.
Yeah, so Hunter S Thompson is from Louisville, Kentucky. We went to the same high school. We wrote on the same school newspaper. So some of the kind of like, documentation throughout the bike tour as I've been going, is kind of an accumulation for a larger like novel, just the story, like, one hopeless romantic never-ending bike tour, randomly stumbling into these places and meeting these people, and then having these small world full circle overlapping connections. But I feel like I've gotten way off from where we were.
Well,
it's very easy for me to do that.
Yeah, that's fine. I have ADD, so
gotta
I specialize in rabbit holes.
Right.
So, but I mean, how did that? We were talking about how you started in like. You obviously thought this through, and we're gonna like. So is that how you started?
Well, so what happened was, it was that summer, and I'm at this music festival in downtown Louisville, Forecastle, with like all my best friends and family, and it's just like one of those moments where I kind of realized like everything's changing. Like, it's not always going to be like this. Like, what am I going to do? Like, what do I really want to do in life? Like, why would I like wait? Like, I should just do it now. And I had this idea, and I was like, I'm going to ride my bike across the country. I'm going to write a book about it, and I'm going to use that to like build a brand and then pitch this concept. And I had told
And how old were you then?
I was 23 at the time.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah, I was 23 at the time. This was 2014. And so then that like completely changed my life. Like, I wanted to do it on my dad's old 87 French road racing bike, and everyone was like, no, dude, don't do that. And so I got the second job as the bike messenger, and I'm teaching, coaching, and just working like 2 jobs, 6 days a week, and also blowing glass on the side, selling jewelry to galleries, pipes to head shops, and doing
hustling.
custom work. And
You're a hustler.
all types of stuff. And I just I saved up a bunch of money, and then that following summer, I was going to leave on this trip where my plan was to like go to Mount Rushmore and then go all the way to Canada and then go all the way down to Mexico and then go down to Key West and then all the way back up and like just basically circumnavigate like the perimeter of the country. And at the time I was rapping in this funk band with all like my childhood best friends. And we'd kind of slowly been growing more and more. The producer, like the kind of head guy, Dr. Dundiff, had collaborated with all these other musicians in town and had lobbied or like kind of like just basically had everyone to call in the radio station and email and start a little hashtag campaign to get more like local hip hop representation at this festival. Because, you know, you have like Outkast and these huge acts, but there's no local rappers, not even one on the bill. So he's like, look, I've worked with all these people. I have a band, teach the band to play all their songs. And then one by one, I'll like slowly introduce each one and it'll be like a big like Louisville hip hop expose. And I remember when we were in the crowd that previous year, when I had that thought, that like moment of epiphany, I was like, this is what I really want to do with my life. That really like in that moment completely changed the entire course of my life.
The hip hop or the cycling?
The like when I decided to ride my bike across the country.
Yeah, okay.
I'm standing next to my best friend Roman, and I tell him, I was like, I'm gonna ride my bike across the country. And he looks me square in the eye and said, next year we are gonna be on that stage. And it's literally like weeks before I planned to depart for this huge trip in the summer of 2015.
Okay.
I got the camping gear, all this used, you know, like year model, and my friends worked at the camping store and they bought it with their discount and pieced together borrowed stuff. I did finally go out and get a good bike from On Your Left Cycles, a 2015 double-butted chromoly steel Kona Sutra, and they got a bike fit, had it outfit with all the Ortlieb bags, and really tried to like do it right. Like if I'm going to invest in it, like go through and, you know, really make it happen. And Roman hits me up, dude, we got the gig. So I'm like, oh, fuck, man. Like, I've been planning all this shit, but it's like, I don't want to miss out on that opportunity as well.
Yeah.
Like, when else am I going to have the chance to do this?
Right.
You know, like, and
yeah, you could wait a year and go cycle.
But I was so ready. I was so hyped. You know, like,
I'm not gonna argue with you.
And
go ride your damn bike.
So what I ended up doing was, instead of doing that big West Coast trip, I just was like, I'm gonna ride to Niagara Falls. So I go through Cincinnati and I'd never done it overnight before. I'd never ridden a fully loaded touring bike before. My first day, I didn't even leave until like later in the day because I'm always running around like chicken with my head. Don't sleep the night before, like get sick or like always this like pre-nervous like departure in any city that I've spent an extended period of time when I go to leave, like same thing.
Whoa,
every time.
Yeah.
It's like super emotionally taxing. Like I feel like more so than the physical side of things.
When you're out there for extended period of times, I've never toured before for an extended time, so
sure.
It's something I would love to do and I'm interested in. But like when you're out there for that long of a period of time, are you like seeking home? Do you get like lonely to where like when you get to a spot you're like, oh man, I just want to like hang out here for a little bit?
That has definitely happened. Like the first tour, I think it was 46 days. Is like average of like 75 miles a day.
That's solid.
For like 6.5 weeks. And so I did 14 states, Canada and DC.
Yeah, that sounds like you're boogieing.
So I went Cincy, Columbus, Cleveland, Buffalo, Niagara Falls, Toronto, and then crossed the Erie Canal through Vermont, New Hampshire, to Boston, and then down through Providence, Connecticut, to New York City, and then down to Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC, and then through Pittsburgh, took the C&O and the Gap, and then wiggled back through Ohio. And I promised my ex I'd make it home for her 25th birthday. I got home like 25 minutes before she turned 25.
She wasn't worried, I'm sure.
And then it was a week before the show. And then it was 1 year to the day. Exactly.
I thought you were going to say you started on that trip and you never went back.
No,
but you went back.
My plan, because that's what I wanted to come back for the show.
Yeah.
Like I still wanted to do it. So I did like 3,100 miles with it was like 87,000 feet of climb. And I really crammed it all in. And I was just winging it. I'd never used the ACA map. I was just like Google Maps. just doing Google Maps. And sometimes it would completely lead you astray.
Oh, yeah.
And I was, sleeping off trails in the back corners of farmland, baseball dugouts, and, just.
You were winging the whole thing.
But a lot of people would take me in, and like somebody would always know somebody. And anytime I have the opportunity to connect with someone on social media, then someone's always got a cousin somewhere, or like their high school best friend, or their college roommate, or aunt or uncle. And so I've stayed with random like people who I just know through Instagram, who like had a friend in this town and told them that what I was doing and that I could crash and stuff like that.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me, honestly, because like you put enough stuff on social,
right?
Like I'm meeting you for the first time, but yeah,
sure.
I mean, it's like I know you to an extent because I follow you on social. It's such a weird thing.
It is so weird when you meet somebody that that you're like, oh, I've seen them on the internet, but I don't really know them. Like, no. You're like nervous. You're
kind of
like, how do I approach you?
I'm not nervous.
But you're like, no, I mean, like. No, like
I'm not nervous. You're nervous.
Oh, I'm shaking. But yeah, it is a weird day and age. Yeah. Like especially.
You're 29, right?
Almost. Yeah, I'm 28.
Yeah.
I'm 29
Dude,
in about a month.
I'm 39.
Okay.
And about to be 40 in like a couple of weeks. So I didn't get the internet until I was 15, and a cell phone until I was like 20 or something.
Yeah.
I had a pager, man. I had a fucking pager. So yeah, my point is, it's just weird.
Totally.
It's cool though. It is actually cool because you almost vet people a little bit. It's like dating, It's like, would I want to hang out with that guy or that girl? It's like, I don't know. No,
sure.
I mean, you're camping here tonight. I feel like it's gonna go fine.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of camping, I got a story to tell you real quick.
Dude, absolutely.
And then we'll segue back. But I meant to bring this up at the beginning. All right, so I leave my house yesterday about 7:00 to drive to Austin, get here about like 9:30, and before I leave I go to the grocery store, pick up a few necessities, one of those being firewood. And I get all the way here, I get my chairs set up, I get my fire starter out, and I'm like, shit,
you left the wood at the grocery?
Left the wood at the grocery in the cart. I even grabbed it and then I left it in the cart, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Well, I really wanted
How much more
fire.
expensive was it at the camp store?
They don't have any here.
They don't sell firewood here?
They don't.
So what'd you have to go to the HEB on Riverside?
I went for a drive and went and got some.
Oh yeah, you had to go see the Chumba guys.
The story continues. So I get back last night, I have a nice little fire, and then today I go visit Chumba, and whenever I get back, I had 2 bundles of wood over there. I get back and they're gone.
What?
I'm like, you've got
like somebody stole your wood?
Someone stole my wood.
God.
I'm like, I was thinking about even posting about it on Instagram. Like, come on, Austin, you're letting me down, All right.
The worst.
But then I go over and look at that firebox, and it's shoveled out. I'm like, wait a second. The criminals didn't take my wood and shovel out the contents, and like clean it up. I was like, I bet it was a park ranger.
Did they just move it somewhere?
And so I called the front desk, and like 15 minutes later, a park ranger brought my wood back.
I'm sorry.
He's like, man, I'm
Trying
sorry.
To keep costs down.
People, I leave it here. Like if I don't
Right.
use it, I'll just leave it there. And that's what he thought.
Fair
He was
enough.
just going around doing his rounds. But long story short, I've had a eventful fire or firewood last couple of days, but we are going to be just fine tonight. Ranger, I don't know, Dan saved the day.
All right, Dan.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Dan.
All right, so where were we?
So I think at this point, I'd made it back after my first trip. We perform the festival. We get Jim James from My Morning Jacket to come perform with us.
Really?
And, yeah, there's a music video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Dr. Dundiff and Friends.
Yeah. We're gonna need like those
AEIOU remix.
things you put at the bottom
Link
of a
it.
research paper.
Yes.
Like
the citation.
the citation. Yeah, we're gonna need citations on this. Was Outcast there?
Not that year. That was the year before.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. My Morning Jacket was one of the headliners
I
that
love them,
year. Yeah. I mean, they're a Louisville, Kentucky band. Actually,
Are they?
Jim was my neighbor growing up.
Shit.
So he would come by and pet my dog. I almost ran him over one day on Christmas morning. I was backing out of my driveway in my Volvo, and I look over, and there he is, just like walking the dog with his family around the block after like Christmas brunch or whatever. His hair blowing in the wind like a rock star.
That's another reason you should be riding your bike.
Yeah,
You don't run people over and kill them on your bike.
Yeah, I mean, the irony in everything that I feel and believe, like that'd be horrible to
Right. As a cyclist,
yeah.
I think the worst thing possible is that you hit another cyclist when you're driving. That
Dude,
is like,
I'm nervous. Like I don't really like driving. Like
No.
I had a car.
Yeah.
I haven't used it in years. I mean, I've been on my bike, since 2017 of May when I left home for the last time, and I haven't had a car the whole time. I've just gone everywhere. on
it's
my bike.
nerve-wracking.
It stresses me out.
Yeah.
Being in a car.
Well, it
Like,
gives you
I'm-
such a
I'm-
great perspective being a cyclist and having all the cars, and you realize how fast they're going and how fucking chaotic it is.
You don't need to go that fast. Like
No.
why?
I
would
drive
you-
slow, man.
And the thing is, like, a bicycle is the best way to like interact with your environment, whether it's like an urban fabric or like just an outdoors space. Like you move at a slow enough pace that you can actually process it and take it all in and like feel and see and hear everything around you. Or when you're like flying through life in a climate controlled cabin, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the
powered
same,
on
and it's also
gasoline.
dangerous. Like
Yeah.
they are. It's just dangerous. It's a
And-
big, heavy thing going down a tiny road at 55, 70, whatever miles an hour.
Right. And I've dealt with so many, going up mountain passes with no guardrail, with potholes, with debris and crosswinds and heavy logging truck traffic coming around blind curves on, 15% gradient climbs or descents. And, that's one thing. But just being in a city with distracted drivers. I got hit by a car the other day in the bike lane. Yeah. I didn't post about it or make a thing because I was fine. My bike was fine. I got real fucking pissed at the driver. I'm like in the bike lane going south and they right hooked me. Thankfully it was low speed, but it was raining. I put on the brakes, I got disc brakes, but still, skid a bit. And, I just kind of hit the back of their car, but then when they turn, they continue going and I jump off the bike and I chase after them. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I knew I was fine. Like I took a picture and I was running late. So I got it. And then I later looked at the picture and I'd moved my phone. It was just like a blur of the ground.
blur.
So I didn't even have the license plate. I was like, cool. But everything was fine. But being in all these different cities and seeing the designs of them and what works, and cities are really dictated by the landscape.
Yeah.
And so that's, adapted to that. And Austin, for example, was never made to be a big city. Its original master plan has sprawled so beyond it. And they're doing all of these things to allow more motor vehicle traffic.
They're doing a double-decker highway.
It's
right
I see it.
underground.
And it's all private too. That's the thing, is they're going to be all toll roads.
Oh.
Yeah, so because the state of
It's
Texas
crazy,
isn't paying
though,
for
isn't it?
private
Isn't it
contractors.
crazy?
It's a very Texas ideology.
And
though.
have you heard of Elon Musk in L.A.? He's doing underground tunnels.
Well, somebody has to. If they're not going to, we're so far behind with our public transit. And the more I've I don't know, my girlfriend's she's an architect. She's an urban designer. So she's going to school she's doing her master's at University of Texas. And I've always been into that kind of functionality of how the infrastructure works in that side of things, and signage. And then even just the media, when somebody dies on a bike, it's an accident or it's a crash, or they're not distracted driver kills innocent cyclist, leaves behind family.
Yeah.
And it's
I
always
had a
a
friend
tragedy, but
that was killed about a year ago in February, and locally, and I got involved, obviously, and there was some press and some meetings, and there was a lot of social media and all this kind of stuff. And that's the thing that really shocked me, was how little people just care about cyclists.
you got to change the dialogue. I don't know. It frustrates me. It angers me. Because to be honest, that's one of my biggest fears. It's I one day will be a ghost bike. I don't want my mom to have to go visit my ghost bike.
God, dude, no.
So, and I want to be able to explore, see the world through the lens of bicycle travel.
Right.
And feel safe and feel comfortable and enjoy myself, and not let fear prevent me from doing something.
I love that, but that's not reality right now.
And that's the thing. That's why I'm like, I started going to these bicycle advisory council meetings just to see like what's actually happening. Like, how does this work behind the scenes? Who approves this or writes this policy that will allow you to redesign this dangerous high like mortality intersection or something like that? Or like, I mean, honestly, like a dream job for me would be working for like the Adventure Cycling Association or Rails to Trails Conservancy as like an advocacy person who would go out into local communities where cross-country bicycle networks pass through and engage with, say, the churches, the firehouses, the community centers, the diner or whatever, the motel or whatever it is, and even people just to get like bikes on road or be like, you know, be aware, like cyclist, some signage or some type of awareness to bring, you know, like a sense of comfort that when you come in somewhere, you know that you're welcome. And it's not that like you have some big old truck. It's like, who the fuck is this? What are they doing in my and like want to run you off the road.
Shoulders would be nice.
Yeah, shoulders are great.
Shoulders, I mean, just on
but shoulders also disappear sometimes.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is non-disappearing shoulders would be nice.
And there are things that could be done, like as far as like on a cheaper scale, you know, maybe it won't provide as much protection.
Well, the biggest one is distracted driving.
For me?
That's number one.
Oh,
I have a question.
Sure.
I had this idea for an app like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I might as well just throw it out there because I'm never going to do anything with it. But
somebody's listening to this. Somebody give you millions of dollars to bring it to life.
Okay, yeah, give me millions of dollars if you hear this.
Give Patrick all the money.
Okay, so, but the idea is like, I don't understand why there isn't a function on your phone that once you start going...
prevents you from using it.
Yeah, it just locks it. Like, why...
I feel like there's
so many deaths. It's illegal. It's fucking stupid, and it's everywhere. It's grandma.
Yeah.
It's grandpa. It's the
you mean
the
on their
mom,
phone while
the
they're
dad,
driving?
While they're driving on their phone.
Your Uber driver.
Huh?
Your Uber driver, like whoever.
Yes.
There's a car commercial out right now that really irks me. Like, basically, the commercial premise is that like everybody's on their phone nowadays. We know that you're texting and driving. We don't care. We'll build a car that'll stop for you, so you can continue doing that. Like instead of like making it be like, don't do this. This is dangerous. This is statistically proven to be more dangerous than drunk driving or sleep deprived driving or whatever. And they're like, it's just, it's literally sick, the commercial is a bunch of people on their phones while they're driving and like almost hitting pedestrians and the car stopping.
Ha ha ha. That's like, so funny.
Dude, I'm like, I was just full of anger. It feels like, I don't know if you know Rachel Manny. She runs Bike Law. It's like a bicycle advocacy kind of Facebook community. That, it's like I totally feel like this is something that she would like get completely outraged with and like write some huge thing and call them out publicly and shame them, like, you know, as I feel like as we should as a society for shit like that like condones and allows that ideology to just be like okay, because it's deadly, it's fatal.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Well, speaking of that, like. Well, how? I guess my question is, in your travels, and you've done, I don't know, how many miles have you ridden in the last 5 years? Do you know?
In the last 5 years, what's 5 years ago? 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've done about 30. So I started using Strava to record my data in, I think 2014, and right now I think I have like 37,000 something miles on Strava.
Okay, so I mean, good. So 37,000 miles.
So the circumference of the world at the equator is 24,901 miles. So it's like 1.5 times around the world. But fully loaded like touring, I'd say is somewhere in the like. I've completely lost count, but I'm gonna guess it's about half or slightly more than half of that.
So what has been your personal interaction with cars? Obviously you were just hit like a few days ago. Overall, what has been your what have you taken away? Like, what have you learned?
That you can't trust them. You have to ride defensively. Like, even like like I said, in the bike lane, I got hit.
Yeah.
And it could have happened in any city. I don't like hold Austin accountable or anything
There's
like that.
shitty drivers everywhere.
But it's a lot of it is in design, especially in like urban metropolitan areas and even in like rural areas too. Speed limit, lane size, whether there's a shoulder or not, you know, the type of traffic, like, because you get these locals that just blaze these roads every day and they know.
So those things you can't change,
Yeah.
not immediately. So how do you ride defensively?
I mean, I actually brought some. I have a lot of lights. I use Night Rider lights, and I usually have like 3 or 4 of them on the back, and then reflective material. I buy things that have reflective material. I actually just got like a 48-foot roll of reflective tape and went like ape shit. And I brought the whole roll and some tape if you want to.
You know that movie Tron?
Your back. Yeah, well,
you look like the guys from Tron,
I saw
which isn't a bad thing.
Like, yeah, if somebody comes up behind me, they will definitely see me. Like, you can't say you didn't see me. Like,
Yeah,
if you hit me and I have like I have a light on my helmet. I clip a light onto the rear middle pocket of my cycling jersey. Usually clip a light on my saddlebag. And then I also have one on my non-drive side seat stay that is the one closest to the drive, the lane. It would be past me on the left-hand side. And when I have my rack and my panniers, and then I have one on my rack as well, which I would move from my saddlebag. So I have multiple eye levels of light, and I set them at different speeds, and one of them even projects like little laser line bike lane around me.
Oh, you got that one. Yeah, I know that.
How
many times have people reported you as a UFO?
I don't know, man.
I'm not making fun of you. I think
3.
it's good. I really do. And I don't go the extent you do, but
I'll take the lane too. Like when I believe it's safe. And this is my ideology.
Oh yeah.
Specifically for that is I ride just inside where the passenger side tire of a motor vehicle would theoretically be.
Correct.
So that forces that vehicle to get over into the oncoming lane to pass you. Yep. They cannot try to bottleneck you if you're riding the white line, if you're riding on the shoulder. If the shoulder's full of debris, if the shoulder has a bunch of broken glass and nails and sharp metal and potholes and rumble strips, and there's a drop off or like a jagged
couch
barricade, garbage cans, parked cars, delivery vehicles, UPS,
right. I'm totally with you.
Then I'm going to be in the lane. And so that way it forces that car to slow down and get over. And sometimes
they have an option. They either have to hit you or get over.
Instead of trying to squeeze past.
And the other advantage of having them get over is that now the car behind them is seeing the car in front of them get over. And it exposes you. So now the car behind them can see you too.
Yeah.
That's what happened to my friend that just died. It was the car behind. There was a car in front and
and then one car tried to squeeze past.
This is an unofficial story, I should say. But what I heard was, and the guy behind him was just getting over in the shoulder to like take a right-hand turn.
Right.
But he couldn't see my friend because the car in front was blocking him.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're in the lane, then that car in front has to get around, and now you have visibility.
And that's the thing is you prevent that from happening by riding there. And people may say, you're an asshole. Why are you taking the lane? It's like, I'm taking the lane because I'm scared for my safety, and I don't trust you. Yeah. And I know that if I do the courteous thing for your convenience, that could cost me my life. Right. And I'm not really willing to risk that. I would rather inconvenience you 8 seconds. Statistically, a cyclist slows a motorist down an average of 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Your 8 seconds is not worth my life. And it should, like, whatever you're doing, like, I'm always late to everything. But, 8 seconds, like, maybe it's a minute. For that instance.
It doesn't matter. It's not worth your life. It doesn't
like,
matter if it's 5 minutes. It's not worth your life.
You can be mad at me, but like society has allowed you to think that you always have to be going fast and getting everywhere and being so efficient. Like you can't take a moment to slow down to like consider another human life. Like if I was in a slower moving vehicle, you're like, this fucking asshole or whatever, but like it's like a different type of rage, and they target you. I had a trucker in Montana once tell me that I was a liability to his career. And I was like,
so he pulled over to have this conversation with you?
No. Okay, this is, I'll try and remain calm during this part, but
Okay.
he like what I call a punishment pass. Like, have you ever been coal rolled?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I live in Texas.
You live in Texas, man. I heard you were camo, so you're confused. What's going on with that guy? He looks the part, but he's on a bicycle.
I don't understand. What should we do, Bubba?
Dude,
Well, we can't coal roll him. He might shoot us.
I was cracking up at that. You had a shotgun mounted on the back of the Chumba.
Yes.
Felina. And then, no, he like, I'm going up a pass, and he's behind me. There's nobody around. There's a clear. There's not a blind curve. There's no crest of anything. There's nobody in the oncoming lane. There's nobody behind him. He could have gone around me. Like, he had plenty of space, and he chose to like bottleneck, try and squeeze me off the road. Like, maybe he was sending me a message,
got to
like,
the side of you and like kind of,
and then like revved his engine and coal rolled me and did the whole thing. Like, you're not welcome here. You don't belong here. I'm gonna send this message to you, and it's gonna fill you with fear, and you're gonna tell all your fucking cyclist buddies not to come around here because we don't want you on the road, and we'll fucking kill you. We'll run you off the road. Like, you don't. And I catch up with this motherfucker at the gas station, and he's like an old man.
Oh my gosh.
And I roll into that gas station, and I like throw my bike down, and I like run up on this dude. Like, I was about to straight up just fucking punch him right in the face. Like, and I was like, what the fuck was, like, you had all the room in the world to get over. Like, why would you do that? And his response was that I was like, he was like reaffirming my thoughts, that he was telling me, like, you don't, like, this is my route. Don't get in the way of my route. And, you know, like, he says, I'm a liability to his career. And I'm like, you're a liability to my life. Yeah, like, this is a job, dude. You can get another job. Like, I don't get another life. You're in like this fucking 20-ton metal death box. It's like a semi.
Yeah.
And
it's frustrating, right? Because you're on that road because you have to be. You don't want to be on that road with that truck, but the infrastructure isn't there.
Yeah, and this was U.S. Highway 2 in Montana, going from Kalispell to Bitterroot. But I don't know. I don't want to spend the entire time expressing my disdain and frustration with like the motor vehicle ideology and culture in this country.
Well, I
want to focus on the fun.
I don't think
we
that's
can get out of bikes, but I feel like it's an important conversation.
That's the thing, is like, if someone's gonna go and look to embark on something like what you're doing,
you have to understand the risk.
Yeah, I think it's just important that you understand the risk, period, and then it's up to you to make that decision, right? And protect yourself and ride defensively and all that stuff.
Prepare appropriately.
Yeah,
you know.
No, I mean, it's a reality, so it's worth mentioning. All right, we can talk about the fun stuff now.
So, I feel like we didn't. Never finished the longer backstory of how I ended up at this picnic table.
Yeah, let's get back there.
So, I think I was back at home after my first tour, where we left off, and so I was like, all right, I'd kind of come to the realization that this is what I really wanted to do. I was like, how can I make like being like a full-time bike bum a career? And, you know, I got into the fine dining industry, started like serving tables, and then like worked my way into like a James Beard award-winning chef like restaurant, and it's really good money, and just worked my ass off. You know, I got out of a 6-year relationship. She kept the house and all the furniture, and I moved home with my folks, and I took the cat. I sold off all my stuff, packed up the rest in storage, and, you know, I already had all the gear from the first trip. I just needed to like upgrade and modify and change a few things. And what ended up happening was I stayed home for about 9 months or so until I was basically ready to launch, and then I rode Indy, Chicago, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Badlands, Black Hills Forest, Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse, Devil's Tower, Jackson Hole, Tetons, Yellowstone Glacier, North Cascades, San Juan Islands, Victoria, Vancouver, Bellingham, Seattle, Peninsula, Portland, Salem, Astoria, Oregon Coast, all the lighthouses, Northern California, Redwood Forest, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Tijuana, Rosarito, Ensenada, Rosarito, Tijuana, San Diego, Phoenix, Grand Canyon, Tucson, Bisbee, Chiricahua Mountains, El Paso, Big Bend, Hill Country, Austin.
Hello. And
So,
at a park bench at McKinney Falls State Park.
Falls State Park.
Having an interview.
And
Perfect.
I've been here one time before. When I
Alright.
first got to Austin, I was like,
Oh.
I wanted to do ended up working at the hostel, and wanted to do the like a bike tour guide type thing for the hostel, but people aren't prepared for that type of stuff. And this route, like once you're here, it's nice, but to get to McKinney Falls from Austin is like the shittiest part of like long distance bike touring. Not to deter anybody from coming out here. You should come out here. It's worth it once you get here. But entering or leaving a major metropolitan area, like you're always like hyped to get there because you got resources and you have amenities after being out in the woods or in some small town. But it's always the most frustrating part because it's confusing, the directions, the infrastructure. Like you have all this construction, major roads.
It's like sensory overload, man.
And then the stop and go traffic of the urban suburban sprawl and all that type of stuff. So, basically the whole ride to here is that. I did a ride to Palmetto State Park with cyclist, and we went through Lockhart, got barbecue, did that whole thing, doing gravel roads and stuff. Past here is like real nice, like rural country farmland, stuff like that. But just once you get here, getting here is just kind of a little bit of a rough patch.
Yeah, when I was driving in, I was like, I don't want to ride here.
Yeah. It's not like that's the one thing that's I don't know, I guess, but it's the closest kind of access point to the city for a place like this.
Yeah.
To have like some public land.
Oh, this is sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I'm set up here to do some interviews, and
I want to go explore the park. Like, just there's a bunch of trails. Like,
yeah,
you
I've
look at
ridden
the
them
map.
before. Yeah, they have good trails here. So whenever you left on that trip, all those places you went, your route, was that all predetermined, and how much of it just kind of happened on the fly?
So I knew I wanted to ride to Wrigley, see a Cubs game. I wanted to go to Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse, and Devil's Tower. I wanted to go to Yellowstone, see Old Faithful. People had talked about Glacier, talked about going to the Sun Road. And originally I wanted to go all the way up through Warrenton, because it's an international peace park. It's on the U.S.-Canada border.
Okay.
As Big Bend is on the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah.
Which in Chihuahua, there's a bunch of protected land.
Yes.
Could be an international peace park. The film River in the Wall.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up.
Oh, my God, dude. I went to the screening.
I did too. Yeah, I went in College Station.
I saw it at the...
But it was a bummer how they portrayed the bikes, right?
They like really were like bummed about the fact that they were on the bike. Oh, this horse! I'm in Texas. I want to be on a horse.
Yeah,
The dude really loved horses. Like, all right,
he
I'll
did,
give it to him.
but
like I'm Kentucky. I love.
Okay,
I
so
love
we
horses.
should just say the film
It's an amazing film.
They
You should see
focus
it.
on the border and basically everything on the border, the conflict,
The culture, the politics, the landscape, the ecology,
Animals,
the plant and animal
Yeah.
species.
And so they explore it by bike, by rafting, and
By
hiking,
foot,
and
on horseback.
On a horseback, and they
1,600
just
miles.
shat on the bike, like. And even whenever they were done with the documentary at the end, they were like,
"Thank God we were done with those bikes." Like,
"Yeah, I
come
mean,
on, dude.
I was like, God, it was a great film, but you didn't have to shit on the bikes the whole time." That was my only. All right, Ben Masters, that's my.
But
That's
I had
my
a lot of
critique.
like resonating frequencies. Like when I
It's a
watched
great
it,
film.
dude, like the emotions that they experienced in that region. It's so beautiful. It's so remote. It's so isolated. Like of all the places I've been, probably my two favorite national parks are Glacier and Big Bend.
Oh, wow.
Both of which exist on our borders.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
one is an international border that is, you can go back and forth. Although when I was there were forest fires in Glacier and the border had burnt down. So I didn't get to cross it.
That'll be back.
So I ended up detouring and that was the first time I used an Adventure Cycling Association map. The local bike shop had the ACA maps, Glacier, Cyclery, and Whitefish. And I did the last 2 sections in the northern tier. And I was staying at I do the sensory deprivation tanks, the float tanks.
You do?
Yeah, there's an article on my website where I talk about like the benefits of it for like mental health as an athlete, as an artist, as a writer.
I know about it just from Joe Rogan. He's big on them. So.
I'm very big on them.
Yeah,
And
I definitely want to check
there's
them out.
there's a
Do
bit
they
of a
have them
story
here in
behind that.
Austin?
There are several here in Austin. I have not connected with any of them. So I'm a glassblower. I made the owner of our local float tank center a pipe and some earrings for his mom and like a necklace pendant for his girlfriend in exchange for a free float to try it out. And I really loved it. And then our local cycling club, Ridin' Fiden, that always ends at this bar, Sidin' Fidens, was after our weekly Wednesday night ride, was there, and he pulls up on his Kona, and I'm on and he's got a Sutra, I was like, dude, we got the same bike. And I just met him days before, and he was like, no way, like, he's like, hey man, if you can like tell some of these guys about like the benefits of floating, send them my way, bring me some business, I'll sponsor you, I'll hook you up with some free floats and stuff.
Oh, cool.
And so through this community online, it's called the Float Collective. It's people that work in these sensory deprivation tank, flotation therapy spas and stuff like that. And so I posted, hey, I'm riding my bike cross country. It's my favorite way of recovery after going through a hailstorm over a mountain pass.
What's it like?
So it's amazing. Like,
well,
so
first describe what it is, because there might be
a
some people
flotation tank. It is a tank of water that is full of thousands of pounds of Epsom salt. So everybody's body is deficient in magnesium sulfate, and basically that's what Epsom salt is. It helps your skin, it helps your muscles. You absorb it through your skin as you relax in the water, and it becomes porous. But basically, it's like the Dead Sea, a simulated version of the Dead Sea that allows you to float weightlessly in zero gravity. And the most important part is the fact that the water is the same temperature as the air and is the same temperature as your body temperature. So take, for example, if you've ever experienced feeling like a mosquito on your arm. Like mosquito lands on your arm, you look down, you're like, and there's nothing there. Then you don't feel that sensation anymore because like that part of your brain overrides any tactile information. So it's completely dark, like double darkness. Can't see your hand in front of your face, and it's completely silent. You can't hear anything other than your heartbeat or your breathing.
Yeah.
So you're floating weightless in a tank where, like the water, the air, your body, you can't hear, you can't see, you can't feel. Once you block out all incoming sensory information, you can channel into this other level of consciousness and look within yourself or look to some other higher plane or other dimension. I don't know how deep we want to get here, but basically is like almost like a sixth sense type thing. And so for me as an athlete, it's really great for your muscles, but as an artist or as just like a human and a vulnerable person with self-conscious issues,
feelings.
Yeah, exactly. I feel things. It blocks out all...
Oh, you're not a robot. Oh, okay. All right. Now we're on the same page.
It's a little rusty, It blocks out all the incoming sensory information and all of those feelings.
Yeah.
In a literal sense. That you can focus on what's really important. And I'll like use it to like reflect and consolidate my memories of like what has happened and then like plan for the future. Like, what do I need to be doing? Like, I'll spend some time stretching and stuff and doing all the physical aspects.
Yeah.
But a lot of it for me is mental and, like microdosing psychedelics and, also combining that with that is kind of like in a not like a release or an escape, but just like a pivotal kind of reset for like my priorities in life or my mental health or like my purpose, having like a sense of meaning.
Well, it's good to check in with yourself.
Yeah. And then there's no other place. The thing is actually Rebecca Vader in that one I was listening to, and she talks about like you go through this breathtaking scenery, and you see all this stuff, and after a while, even though it's still magical and, whatever, it becomes monotonous, and then you're just left with yourself.
Yes.
So this place is a place, and there's 2 articles on my website where I kind of discuss like mental health and like my role of utilizing flotation tanks.
Just
for
pitch your website real quick.
It's I rode here from Kentucky.com.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, there's one, The Legend of Gustavo, that tells the homeward bound story of how my cat ran away and came back. And then there is
a thrilling and heart-wrenching tale.
Oh, it is. You will cry.
Okay.
If you don't cry, I'll send
I'm a
you
robot.
something. Okay.
When did you how did you afford to do what you're doing, and how have you sustained that? I'm always
so sustaining it has been the hardest part. Initially, like affording it was just the circumstances of having worked a lot to invest in all the gear, having the initial investment of having all that, which is the biggest in part for like is the overhead, other than feeding yourself and housing yourself.
Yeah.
So if you can be resourceful and find ways to free places to stay, warm showers, couch surfing. My favorite thing is just going to the local bar. You roll into town and you go to the pub. Normally I'm in like roadie bike kit.
Right.
And I'll leave my bike out front. And then eventually someone says, "Oh, you're not from around here, are you? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Why are you doing this? What do you eat? Where do you sleep? Do you got a gun? How many miles you do in a day? How much does that thing weigh? How long you been on the road? Where you been?" All that.
Yeah.
And normally when they get to, "Where do you sleep?" I go, "I don't know. Your couch." Just give them like a cheesy grin.
And they're drunk enough.
They sit there and they oh, this works at anywhere, dude. It works like gas stations. The locals, like, if they like if you can start off on the right foot with them, they want to help you out because they're like inspired. Like, this doesn't happen every day, just some guy from Kentucky rode his bicycle in here. So they'll be like, well, hell, man, I don't normally ever do this, but like, I mean, fuck, why not? You got this story, like I had one person ask to see my ID once. No, I just want to make sure you are who you say you are.
Take a picture of it?
No, they didn't take it. They're just like, what's your name? Like,
huh?
Kind of like, make sure I'm not some like crazy like con man.
Yeah, they don't
harvest their organs.
They don't put con man on your driver's license.
Yeah, put your spleen in my Ortlieb Paneer.
All right, who is the craziest person or whatever that you stayed with? That's a crazy thing to do.
And I've stayed with total random strangers that I've never met.
Yeah.
Like, frequently. And there have been some people that just amazing. You go above and beyond. Like, here's an ounce of weed, or here's like you need to do laundry. You want to place, it's normally like those standard things. Like, you get, like, oh, here's somewhere to sleep. Do you need to do laundry? Are you hungry? You want some snacks for the road or something like that, or charge your electronics, whatever that is.
Take a shower.
And I mean, it's been anybody and everybody, like from the most blue collar job you could think, like a garbage man or something, to like a rocket scientist, and from illegal immigrants to border patrol agents, and everything in between.
Yeah.
And when you're in someone else's place and they take you in, you don't like sacrifice like some of your, but you kind of like hold your tongue if you don't like necessarily always see eye to eye. Like, hey, you're doing me a favor. And that happened to me like out in,
you can't bite the hand that
in
feeds
West
you.
Texas when I was sleeping behind a bar. And it was like a little border patrol agent town. And I started voicing my ideology about immigration and humanitarian politics and leftist ideas. And we didn't see eye to eye. And he's like, "Man, I'm helping you out. I'm doing you this favor. You're upsetting my bar guests." And yeah, and it got kind of real, where he was like,
so he was
not really so much so. Yeah,
So
actually, this is pretty crazy. I left Marathon, Texas.
I know where that.
Caught a wicked tailwind. did 117 miles in like 6 hours.
Oh, nice.
And then it took me 3 days to go 60 miles because that wicked tailwind, a 180-degree about face directly at me.
Yeah.
And I was just roasted. I got so fixated. I'm like, oh, my God, I can do a century in under 5 hours. Like, never in my life I would have ever imagined that. I'm carrying all this water in the West Texas desert on a fully loaded, like, I've got like 120 pounds on my bike. And I'm averaging like 20 miles an hour. And right at like the last, like, it was like the 92-mile mark, the wind changed and the gradients kicked up. And I lost the dream. It went away from me. But, I slept behind a community center. I went to this Judge Roy Bean Visitor Center. I don't know if you've ever been there. There's a cactus museum there.
I haven't been there. I know where it is.
Judge Roy Bean. I didn't know about this guy. I didn't grow up in Texas, but apparently he's one of those, like, like we had Daniel Boone and shit like that, and like kind of historical characters. He'd serve out kind of not vigilante justice, but his own style of justice at a bar out in West Texas.
Perfect.
Pecos Inn or something like that. And some kid rolled up on like an ATV, and I'm saying like this is like 7 or 8 year old kid on like an actual like 4-wheeler, and he's like, "You looking for a place to camp?" Like, they let y'all sleep behind a community center. Like.
Were you on the ACA route, so he was used to seeing other cyclists or something?
This actually what this was on the southern tier.
He's like, oh yeah, we get one at you every once in a while.
Going into Del Rio, in between Big Bend and Del Rio. That was a fun. But those situations, they've that like you just become so used to it.
Does it stress you out? Like me thinking about that, it kind of stresses me out a little bit to be somewhat dependent on other people, random places. You never really know where you're going to sleep.
And I mean, I'm prepared and equipped to deal with that. Like I've got, my little stove and my water filter and, my solar panel and my dynamo wheel and like
now, Drew, you don't stealth camp, do you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you heard all the places I've slept.
I know. I was kidding.
And I try to like pay my dues and pay a camp fee. I stopped in the office and paid my $6 cover to get in.
Oh yeah.
I'm sharing a site with Patrick here. Okay. But there've been plenty of places I definitely have scooted in and out of.
Okay, so
and I've had people chase me down. Like, you didn't pay your campsite fee. Then I feel like a dick. But
you got to pay your campsite fee,
dude. One of these was like, it was actually the night that I crashed. That cracked my frame. That left me stranded in Austin. I'm in the hill country. I looked down for a second. I look back up. Shoulder goes out into a ditch, and I didn't have like any time to prepare. And I went down it and. I picked myself up. I dusted myself off. I'm like, fuck it, I'm over it for the day. I was going to try and get to this town, sleep behind the library, and come upon this little private campground. This place is nice. I'll get myself a spot in the back, and then I have like the whole place to myself. There's nobody. And I was like, fuck it, dude. I'm taking a rest day. I'm just going to chill here. And they came by and they waved. And I was like, eventually I'll come up. I'll pay on the way out. And then some people come in, and I guess maybe because I like hadn't gone through like the formal stuff, but they said hi. I was like, hey guys.
That counts as a formal document in Texas.
They weren't like, hey, you owe us a campsite fee. They were just kind of like nonchalant about it. And then these people came in to like check into the site, and they like put them like the whole place is empty, and they like put them at my site, and I was like, oh wow, maybe they're being like, hey, you should say something, and I'm just being like a total bum about it. And I said something like, hey, how much do you guys pay for this site? Like, oh, it's $45 a night. And I'm like, oh, so you're telling me that this is $90 for me to sleep in my own tent here? And it's like,
so it wasn't a state park. It was like
it was like a private campground.
Private, like where an RV would. Yeah.
But it had like tent camping area. Yeah. It was a huge place. Apparently it's a vacation park. It's on the Guadalupe River, or maybe I think it was the Guadalupe River. It's by the Three Sisters. I don't know if you've ever.
Sure. I don't know. Texas is big.
Notable hill country motorcycle loop apparently, but a lot of cyclists ride it as well. Pretty beautiful stretch road. But yeah, I was like, holy shit, dude. Like $90. I was like, I should have just gone up and been like, hey guys, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was $90. Like, I just like skated out of there. It was like,
So they chased you down?
Dude, I stopped at the local like diner in town. And he pulled up and was like, "Oh, how did you forget?" And I was like, "Oh my God, dude, I cannot believe this is happening right now. Like, I'm such an asshole." Like, and then, and it was like a buffet diner, so I'm like just loading up this plate. So I just been eating like
You brought
ramen
your
and
paneers
potatoes
in,
and
you were
stuff.
just dumping it in.
No, on a plate. Like
I'm
I was
kidding.
eating, yeah. And he came in and he was kind of like, and then I went to like give him some money, and he's like, "Hey man, don't worry about it." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "You're all right." and then I felt like even worse. So I was like, asked the lady, I was like, "Yo, you know Wayne?" She's like, "What's he normally get for dinner?" So you come here often? He's like, "Yeah, a couple nights a week."
So you bought him dinner.
Yeah, like I bought him a dinner. Yeah, I was like, so when he comes back, I was like, "Oh, you remember that guy trying to skip out?" It's like I don't know.
I hear you.
You know, I'm not
$90
I'm not hooking up generators. You know, like they did have a shower. I took a shower once.
I'm not judging you,
You know,
man.
I plugged my phone in.
No one is no one's even going to listen to this. No one's judging you. So tell us about the marbles.
Okay.
Where did the marbles come in? Well, maybe you should tell us what. I don't even know what exactly you're doing with the marbles, but you're like hiding them all over.
So yeah, I'm a glass blower. I'm a lamp worker, a flame worker. I work in borosilicate glass. I got into it in high school working Moretti on like a MAP gas torch, and now I'm running like oxygen propane. And I started making jewelry and decorative stuff, Christmas tree ornaments, you know, rear view mirror decorations, light catchers, fan pull fobs, drawer knobs, and then like functional items, and then jewelry, necklaces, earrings, rings, pendants, that kind of stuff, beads. And I started making pipes, and I was a pipe maker for a while, and then I got into adult toys, dildos, butt plugs, you know. And
Just in case you didn't know what he meant by adult toys.
Yeah. Just those two things. I wasn't making anything else.
I'll need to talk to you later, sir.
Yeah, there we go. One of my biggest selling items was a heart-shaped necklace pendant, and I would market it as match her eye color, her team color, her birthstone, her alma maters, her favorite outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have people come to the house. I'd built a studio like in my dad's basement, so I had a blowtorch and a kiln, and I teach like small group private classes and lessons, and it'd be like you'd come and you'd make your own heart for your mom, for Mother's Day, for your girlfriend or your wife or fiance, for Valentine's Day would typically be like the markets I'd try to hit for that. And in the process, what I'd do is I'd take rods of glass in the blowtorch, I'd mix them and twist them together into kind of some abstract swirly pattern, rotating at different speeds, holding the glass at different angles, using different types of heat from the torch to shape it into like a spherical shape. Then I press it with the graphite paddle and then like shape it with like a tungsten marver and then make the heart shape, put a little loop on it. And at one point, as I was making one, it kind of looked like an Easter egg. And Easter was coming up. And I was like, oh, that's funny. I'll just make an Easter egg. It's like I made a shit ton of Easter eggs for like a photo shoot with this like really amazing artist, Julius Friedman. He used to do the Louisville Orchestra and the Louisville Ballets like posters for their productions that they put on. And my mom was a ballerina. So like growing up, we'd have his photography in the house. And one of my best friends married the daughter of one of his like family friends. And so he was there. The wedding was at his house. So I got to like meet this man in real life who was in my childhood, just like the artist behind these images that were on the wall in my house and I'd never met. One of the more famous ones is like a point shoe, like balanced on an egg. And so I thought it was funny because I made these eggs and it kind of came full circle. And I approached him. I was like, hey, you want to do this little photography project? Because I visited, he has this piece of property where he'd done a bunch of like rock stacking and stuff. It's like Stonehenge or something out there. And so he shot these eggs, and then I took them with me to go across the country. And I'm up in the Black Hills Forest of South Dakota, and he passed away. And I hiked to Harney Peak, and I left one at the summit for him because it was one of the ones that had been featured in all the photos we'd done in the project.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, just kind of like cathartic
Yeah.
thing, like in his memorial.
Yeah, no, it's nice.
And that's kind of where it started. What other thing was so I'd taken them with me, and then people would take me in, let me stay with them if they had children. I can get, who's this crazy guy on a bike at the house? Oh, he's cool.
He's got marbles.
Yeah. So I show them, wow, you make marbles. And so I'd hide one in the house, like an Easter egg, like as a joke, like, oh, the Easter bunny kind of thing. Was like, it's what it really started as. And so then.
It's like an icebreaker.
Yeah. And so then I showed it. And so I would hide him in the house. And I'd say, oh, by the way, tell Luca there's a marble in the house or something like that. And then they find it and they send me a picture. And it was fun. Like after I'd left, I was kind of like left a piece of myself behind. Like some place that touched me and left a mark on me, I want to leave my mark on it.
Got you.
And then like I'm coming down southern Oregon coast, entering Northern California. And I knew that Humboldt, Eureka specifically, had a huge glassblowing community. So I reach out on Facebook like, hey, anybody know anybody up here? Let me work on a torch.
Smoke all that weed.
Yeah, so much. Like every person I stayed with was like, here's an ounce of weed. Here's an ounce of weed. I'm like, yo, I have like a quarter pound of weed in my bag. Like,
I'm
taking
good.
up too much space.
Man,
just
it's
start giving
taking
it
up
away.
room. Here you go.
And so like, I joined. I call him up, my buddy Sergio, who's a marble maker back at home. I was like, hey, you know anybody around this way? And he's like, yeah, dude, I got some friends. Puts me in touch with this guy who actually has a marble festival. He's like, he used to be like an outdoor wilderness guide in the Northeast for years, and then decided to move out west and grow weed in California and make marbles. And this is like retirement. Live by the ocean, live by the mountains, live in the forest. Pretty sweet place, honestly. Great guy, really awesome person. And he connects me with him, and he's like, tells me, hey, are you on World's Biggest Marble Hunt? I'm like, what the fuck is World's Biggest Marble Hunt? He's like, dude, it's a whole online community of marble hunters and hiders all around the world. There's
Oh my
like
gosh,
30,000.
did you not know about?
No, I didn't. He's like, there's 30,000 members. And so I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Wow.
So I joined the
30,000.
page worldwide, and the most active
Okay.
county, or the most active region in the whole world, is Humboldt County. So I discovered it when I'm in like the epicenter of it.
Oh, cool.
And so I post on, hey guys, new to the community, glassblower, marble maker, cycling across the country, hiding marbles. Thought I was the only one doing this. Didn't know all y'all were out here. And so then the next day,
There's a lot of people who lost their marbles.
yeah, dude, they're all trying to find. The next day, I'm cycling from Orick, which that's a Wild West story, that little inbred town. And so I'm leaving Orick, and I ride into this town, Trinidad. And when I get to Trinidad, I stop at this place that serves an ice cream cone with mashed potatoes and gravy and brisket in it, in an ice cream cone. So I was like, I got to get that. I pulled over on the side of the road. I'm looking at my phone. And then this lady comments on my post and was like, on the marble page, did I just see you on the side of the road in a Hammer Nutrition jersey? I was like, yeah, that was me. And she's like, do you still need a place to stay?
What?
And she takes me in and lets me stay. She's like, I started using Hammer's products like this past week, and I saw it as a sign, and I saw his post.
Here's
and
an
it
ounce
took
of
me in.
weed.
Yeah, exactly. San Fernando, kid. And you can trim it yourself. And then I ride into town, and I meet the next guy and work with him, and so we hid some marbles, and people were like finding them like crazy. And so I started I made up a bunch of them and just like started hiding them, and posting it on the page and like using that, and then through that connection,
do you post it with like tips or like a GPS coordinate? It's
not an exact GPS coordinate. I do have that. Like I would take photos and videos, and you swipe up on the iPhone and it shows you the location of it.
Yeah,
so I could like screenshot that and zoom in and show the dot.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the actual number itself. But so what I would do is I would make them more difficult. So I have 9 that I hid along the U.S.-Mexico border from San Diego to Del Rio, and I'm calling it the Southwest Adventure Series, a marble hunt in the beautiful borderlands. And what it is they're basically all at the summits of mountains. So you want to get it, you got to like hike to the top of this mountain.
Oh, cool.
And it's like tucked away and hidden like in a little hole of a cave with some rocks in front of it, and I put a little sticker and a business card and a little bag and all that. But you would never see it
and you'd never know it was there unless you had the hints and the clues. There's one at the summit of Emery Peak in Big Bend. There's one at the top of the Big Hill, quote unquote, on Texas Farm to Market Road 170, steepest paved highway in Texas, 15% grade mile both ways, up and down.
Oh, nice.
Camino del Rio, through Big Bend Ranch State Park from Presidio to Lajitas along the U.S.-Mexico border and the Rio Grande River. Absolutely one of the most beautiful roads I've ever ridden. And then there's one at the summit of Mount Lemmon in Tucson. There's one at the summit of Push Ridge Peak, which is the westernmost peak.
Mount Lemon.
Have
I
you-
should have known you were.
Yeah, there's one up there.
Dang it.
And one at Push Ridge Peak. There's one out in Glamis, or near Glamis in the Imperial Desert of Southern California.
Have you already put all the information
all the
out
clues? No, a lot, only if I haven't actually posted all the clues. I've told individual people about some of them. That's like, oh, like the dude who took me in Interlingua and let me crash on his couch. Like, I want him to go hike to the summit and find that marble. Like,
Yeah.
I owe that to him.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. Is like, you know, I haven't put the clues out because I would rather you have your opportunity. If you don't want to pursue it, then somebody else can go find it. But yeah, so it just became like an interactive thing, and for me, like, it was a way to like engage with other artists, and I'd learn a technique and they'd learn a technique, and I'd stay at their house for a weekend, you know, tell them some stories and buy a bottle of bourbon or something. You know, they're, nah, you don't owe me anything, man. Like, you know, a lot of them, you know, I pitch in on materials and supplies and whatnot, but it was just, it's a great way to like engage. And then I kind of market the marbles more so as like, you're not buying a piece of art, you're making a donation to help support me keep the like never ending bike tour dream alive.
Yeah.
And in return, you're receiving like a unique, custom, individual, one of a kind work of art.
Yeah.
As, like,
I do the same
a
thing with
commemorative
stickers.
thing. Yeah. And I started doing that. Yeah, I got some sticker designs myself nowadays too. But they're not as like, people love stickers, but you know, you only charge a couple bucks for a sticker. You know,
I charge $5. I'm expensive.
Well, I started doing
Mine's
like,
a donation.
yeah, and I say it the same way. You're not buying a product. You're donating to a dream.
Here's the
You're
thank you gift.
sponsoring me.
Yeah.
It's a grassroots effort. Like, I don't like the idea of taking a handout. Like, I
Sure.
did a GoFundMe, you know, like on my first bike trip, like, help me ride across the country. And like, I was creating content and sharing my travels as like a, you know, like, if you want to see this happen, you can feel as if you helped contribute to making this a reality, you know? But after having been on the road for so long, I feel like, you know, I don't want to be that guy asking for a handout. I'd rather like offer you some piece of like merchandise or some like image or logo or, you know, something beyond just like the curated content that I want to create to help like inspire and engage people to go out and explore these areas. And I think the marble hunt is an incentive for that. So like, you want to like, and even if you don't find it, the fact that I got you to go out there and find this place is like, I feel like that's rewarding to me. Like, there's this section of a secret beach in Point Reyes National Seashore in Marin County, California, just north of San Francisco, just south of Sonoma, that you can only access during the low moon or the low tide cycle of a supermoon, or like a really, you know, like a big full moon where it's going to swing bigger. And I'd rolled into this town. Bicycling Magazine had like listed it as, I'd gone out to San Francisco once before and I had a bike and I wanted to ride this ride. Best ride in every state, 50 best rides, state by state guide.
Yeah.
So stop by the I forget, some bakery in
Was that the one where
Point
they
Reyes
said,
Station. Get these cookies.
The one for Texas was that Wildflower Loop.
Is that part of the Hill Country Loop, or is it in the Hill Country?
Yeah, yeah. It's part of that Hill Country Loop.
I want to do. I
It's
want to go
called-
back
it's
out to
called
Big
Willow
Bear.
Loop. That's what it is,
Willow
Willow Loop. Yeah.
And they're like single day rides.
Yeah.
The article, it's specifically like highlighted a bunch of single day rides that were just amazing. Best ride in every state. And so I wanted to do this ride, and I'd tried to do it years ago, and I failed. I didn't make it that far. I'd never ridden gradients or mountains like that, you know, like Got the foothills of the Appalachia, like the low rolling, old eroded mountains, not like, fault line gradient topography. And so I met this guy in Mendocino who's like, hey man, I live in Point Reyes Station. You can crash with me. I get into town. I call him. He doesn't answer. I go to the bakery. Bakery's closed. I'm like, oh, cool. A couple of years waiting for this and whatever. Go to the cheese shop. There's this like old Brooklyn Jewish lady at the cheese shop who's like, oh, you should there's a hostel in the National Seashore. And there's a full moon. There's a king tide. You can get to this secret beach that nobody knows about.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, but there's 17-mile mountain pass, and there's no food, there's no internet out there. So tell your people, get something to eat if you're going. So I go to the little grocery store. I go, hey guys, I'm going here. And I ride there, and I get to the front desk, and I say, hey, you guys know anything about this secret beach? And this is like a hostel inside the National Seashore. So it's not a national park.
Yeah.
It's a national seashore. It's like a national recreation area. And I get to the hostel, and I tell them about this. They'd never even heard of it. And they're the closest access point. And so they dig around with their landline internet and find like a PDF document. Turn left at the large eucalyptus tree. Go 100 meters. Climb over this, climb down through this cave. You'll pop out at the other side. Go however far, you'll pass a slippery section of tide pools, and then you can go through this keyhole that's normally submerged underwater. Directly to your left, there will be a 90-foot-high basalt ceilingless cave. So I'm like, I follow I ride the fire road, I ride the single track,
I'd be worried
I
I'd
like my
get
bike up.
stuck.
But the instructions were like, you must arrive between this time at the tide. So you have to calculate the tide 45 minutes because the tide chart is made for the bay, and we're north of the bay, so it's different.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we're on the other side of the San Andreas Fault. So the rock features don't reflect all the rock features you've seen the whole way down the coast. So it's like this random ass plate with these crazy rocks and just structures that have been eroded from the wind, from the ocean. And it's like this very rare place that you can't normally access. The cliffs are too unstable to approach from the south. It's too rocky to approach by boat. You can only get there this way, and you can only get there in this small window of time. So
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
I just happened to end
How
up
long
here.
is the window?
It's like a 5 or 6 hour window.
Okay.
So like it's like when the tide starts receding to it hits like its negative maximum to when it comes back to zero, you can get in and out. So it's like just leave yourself enough time. Never push it. Even in the directions, like we could link the directions to the secret beach.
Okay.
And
yeah, this
because I want you to go there because I don't know if like with the rising sea levels and stuff, this may be a place that doesn't exist too much longer.
Right.
Or the next earthquake, dude, this could be in the ocean. Instantaneous liquefaction. Right. That's the term they use on the Juan de Fuca plate up in Oregon for all the coastal cities that are filled in with landfill. Like when it goes, you're gone. Yeah.
Wow.
So I hope you get out there. I hope it doesn't go while you're out there. But
no, for sure. I'm
but
going to plan better than that.
I hit a marble.
I'm going to plan for
You should. And so I went out there,
earthquakes.
and I'd been microdosing for like, I thought I just saw a bald eagle. I don't think they're. I saw a bald eagle in Arizona once, though. You've seen them out here in Texas?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've seen some close to where I live over in the Huntsville area.
Nice.
Yeah.
I thought I saw one. Anyway, yeah, I rode there, and it was such an awesome adventure that I stayed another day. I had to go back and do it again. Like I went back and did it again. And I just
like
kept
once in a well, I guess twice in a lifetime.
I kept thinking like how few people have seen this, and there's several waterfalls there as well, and just like how rare it was and how it may not exist, and like just getting in these caves and like seeing these rock features and like catching the light at these certain angles and stuff. And I'm in the cave, and these people show up. And they're like, "How did you find out about this place?" He's like, "Man, I've known about this for like decades, and like I don't even know how many people know of this." Like. I get the lunar calendar chart, and I plan my trip like 6 months to a year in advance, and he leads like guided tours. And I'm just some random guy who stumbled in town. It's the right place at the right time. And this whole like experience is about those moments and being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, well, you got to be out there to find them, right?
100%. And you got to be willing to like risk it and go
Yeah.
see it, because
You got to have some adventure in you.
oh man, but it's that type of stuff that like it makes me crave this. Like you're saying, it's like a drug. It's like a substance.
All right. So you've traveled all over United States, over 37,000 miles.
Sure.
And how long have you been in Austin? What made you stop here? Like what,
So
out of all the places you could have stopped, Austin isn't a bad place. but-
Austin's a great place. Austin is very much like where I come from. So
Okay.
in Louisville, Kentucky is kind of modeled after Austin, Texas. We're both little liberal islands in a sea of conservative red. We're the standout place for all the misfits and weirdos that don't fit in, you know, a right-wing state.
You should have seen it 20 years ago.
Yeah? It's
Yeah.
It's been more gentrified and teched out now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same
I
with
mean,
San
there's
Francisco.
a lot
It's
of
the narrative.
Teslas. There's a lot of,
The narrative is
high-end
echoed.
cars. Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a great place. Like, but basically how I ended up here was, well, I knew that I'd always like wanted to spend some time here. I guess maybe just back it up just a hair.
Sure.
So like when I originally left, I was doing 100 miles a day, going across the plains, going across the prairie, busting through the bullshit to get to the good shit. So that when I got to that national park or that state park or that destination that I wanted to spend some time at, I could kind of take some moment, really soak it in. So by the time I get to the Rockies in the mountains, I'm, 50, 60, 70 miles a day. By the time I get to the coastline, it's, as low as 50, 30 miles a day. And it depends. And I basically like ran out of money and ended up having to just find random odd jobs along the way.
In
Like
Austin or prior?
I've ran out of money like basically when I got to San Francisco, for the most part. And so I ended up, through the glassblowing community, I just posted on Facebook, looking for a place to stay. Anybody know anybody? Some dude I used to work with in a glass studio in Louisville knew some guy he used to play Xbox Live with on Halo in like 2008. And he's like, hey, man, he works at a dispensary. He's a bike messenger. I think you guys would get along. He'd probably let you crash on his couch. I told him you'd be hitting him up. He sent me his Instagram. I hit him up. I'm like, yo, dude. Yeah, man, it's cool. Roll through. So I move in and crash on the couch for a few nights. Really hit it off, him and all of his friends and this whole like bike culture community. They're working with this company, used to be TCB, which is pretty big in like bike culture world. And then it was Scout, and it ended up going under from some big corporate acquisition. Like Grubhub acquired Eat24 and didn't want any third-party independent courier companies contracted under their delivery logistics platform. So they basically wanted everybody to go corporate, and the owners had designed this like app called TwinJet that became like the bike messenger standard for modern 21st century delivery work. So like, we got royalties off that. We don't need the headache of like dealing with this company. And so the people I was crashing with had everybody at the warehouse, this like crazy artist eccentric warehouse in the Mission District of San Francisco that wasn't up to code, and some like developer was trying to buy it and, level it, build a high-rise condo loft across from the homeless assistance program across the street. And everybody gets all fucked up, and it's like last day of summer camp, last day of high school, kind of like end of an era. And I'm the fly on the wall from Kentucky touring across the country who's there to witness that and share this moment with all these random, bike messengers that don't know what the fuck they're going to do because they're in San Francisco and they're all losing their jobs. So one moment, Antonio's like, man, or like Chris, like some people are like, let's just take over the company. And they had seats from Candlestick Park where the Giants, the 49ers used to play, in the warehouse. And we're sitting in the old stadium seats. Let's just call it Candlestick Courier. Turning and burning. And so it like stuck. Like next day, Chris went down to City Hall, got the doing business as license. Took all the cargo bikes, all the radios, everything. Moved it into the living room of the warehouse where I was sleeping on the couch. they're like, yo, dude, we're fucking slammed. It's pouring down rain. They're entirely understaffed. They're trying to retain their old clients by undercutting this new corporate. They say, hey, we'll do it. You know, like me and Carlos, and like, we've been delivering your food for years. You want some like corporate ass rookie that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing to like spill all your food and burn all your...
They still have to hire someone. So if you got all the couriers...
Yeah, but well, it's the thing is like on those app-based food delivery services, it's all within the app. The restaurants just pay a small fee to have their menu listed on those.
Yeah.
And it increases their sales because they had a whole new market. But we would cut out their fee by undercutting them and doing it for a cheaper rate, and they just pay us directly for that aspect of it. They could still use their logistics platform. It gets kind of confusing, but basically, like, they're like, yo, man, we need you. Like, I don't know the city, dude. I got Google Maps in my ear. Turn left, turn right. I got a bunch of, like, pho in my backpack in the rain. Go down on the rail tracks, get my tires stuck in. Like, you know, I rode like 50 miles, crashed, like, you know, made like $200. I was like, dude, I just got paid like $200 to ride my bike around the city of San Francisco, and like, it is the most miserable weather.
Yeah.
But I was like instantly hooked and addicted to it. And so I ended up staying there, and everyone was like, well, man, how long are you in town for? I was like, I don't know, a couple days, you know, just helping them get this off the ground. They need an extra hand. So, well, dude, if you're in town for this weekend, man, we got this track lacrosse race coming up. You should come out and spectate. It's gonna be real tight, resistance race, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. And then like, you know, well, okay, I'll leave on Monday. I'm leaving Monday. It's a fresh start, brand new, back on the road, turning over a new leaf. And then, you know, party too hard on the weekend, all hungover on Monday. And then, hey, man, we need to work. Oh, okay, let me make some money. And then it's like, see me on Tuesday, Wednesday. Man, I thought you were leaving on Monday. And then, oh, man, he's never leaving. He's been saying I'm leaving. He's leaving Monday since he got here. Eventually, I finally, like, I saved up some money. I managed to, like, make my departure from the Bay. You know, they say, you know, you left your heart in San Francisco. Like, that's, other than the cost of living and, like, the housing situation.
Yeah, that's tough.
And the homelessness and like some of like the gentrification. Like geographically, like the peninsula, the bay, the mountains, the forests.
The weather.
It's such an amazing, and the culture, the art, like the infrastructure, pedestrian foot, like Market Street, San Francisco Bicycle Coalition. Market Street is now car free, like completely car free. It's a huge step. Like, that's some fucking, like, Tokyo shit. You don't see that in America.
No.
And
I don't even know what you're talking about.
They've eliminated
No, I know what you're
vehicles
talking
now.
about it, but I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. But, like, I don't know. Like, I love that place, and I love that community, and that moment in time to have, like, worked that job and lived that life and been a part of that whole series of events. And so then from there on out was kind of a similar reoccurring story in these places, but it was just insert random odd job in place. And it's like, you know, I spent 3.5 months there, and then I went down to LA and then San Diego, and then I spent some time in Mexico, and then went back, and then I ended up like walking dogs and house sitting and cat sitting in Phoenix, and then working at a glass blowing school in Tucson. And I was working as a dishwasher at a bike shop cafe in El Paso, which ended up leading to me speaking at a People for Bikes event and at a local elementary school to promote the USA Crit Sun City Crit race, and then getting a sponsorship from Kogel Bearings, hooked me up with some pulley wheels and bottom.
Hey, that's what I got.
Yeah, you know, I was wondering, I was like, you should reach out to them, man. Like, I feel like they'd toss you some stuff for a promo giveaway.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
I got Kogel
Sim, you
on
hearing
my
this,
and my chumba there.
already repping full Texas.
Yeah.
And you know, I never knew Texas had a bike scene. Thought it was just big white diesel trucks.
Yeah, well, you got that too. It's
There's
big.
plenty.
There's room for everybody.
And then, so yeah, I guess now finally getting to Austin. I spent a couple months in San Diego and OB, working cannabis and doing some other stuff like that. But once I was about 70, 80 miles outside of Austin when I realized, I looked down, I'm on some little back country road, run out of water. I'm like, anytime I'd see a car stop, I'd just stand in the middle of the intersection and hold my Camelback podium bottle upside down with the lid off. And then I'd stop. Someone would give me some water. Someone would like, oh, I got
That's
some
a good
beer.
idea.
Yeah, if you ever run out of water, never be afraid or shy to ask. Like,
Oh, no.
always ask for water.
I've been close, but I haven't run out yet.
And so I get someone gives me some water, and I go to put my bottle back on the cage, and I notice this little wrinkle on my down tube just beneath the headset. It's double-butted chromoly steel, so I'm guessing this is right where the butting tapered. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, is there a wrinkle? Like, there's a crack in my frame? Like, and then I start thinking about, like, dude, I put like 20,000 miles carrying 100 plus pounds through the rainforest in the desert and, you know, like the Alpine, and not, you know, necessarily, it's not a racing bike. I don't wash it after every ride. You know, like, you've exceeded its weight limit. You've crashed it. You've stressed it. There's probably some internal corrosion, combination of all that. And my dad's brother, who actually had gone to UT and then moved down here after college and kind of stayed in the area, has a place out in Horseshoe Bay. So it's like, after all these years, like,
It's like a fancy golf resort.
Kinda, yeah. Well, there is a resort that's there, and then he's got like a house like in the hills kind of thing, like, and it's like his retirement vacation home kind of. Yeah, they did pretty well for themselves. So the timing, after being, you know, on a you know, sleeping in a tent and crashing on couches for however long, was, you know, couldn't have been better. That's like, okay, now I have a little place to just hide out and figure out what the fuck I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So I basically,
'Cause you don't have a bike. You don't
I'd
have
run out of money, and my frame's cracked.
Yeah.
I'm broke.
That's a problem when you're traveling by a bike.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I've always wanted to stay in Austin. I wanted to check the place out, and I was like trying to figure out what I was gonna do for money, and how I was gonna find a free place to live that wasn't like in a suburb. Like, I wanted to be in the city, and really experience the culture, at least for a little bit. So somebody suggests Chicano dude on a bike. Good guy to follow on Instagram. He's currently touring in Mexico. He says, dude, why don't you work at a hostel? He was pedicabbing on Venice Beach at the time, and my plan was to do a pedicab thing.
Yeah.
But there's some overhead involved with that, renting it and all that. And I didn't have any money for that. So somebody said, why don't you do a work trade at a hostel? And I was like, that's fucking genius. Like, I've stayed at a lot of like budget backpacker travelers hostels, but I'd never once worked at one.
Yeah.
But all the people that were always working at them were always just fellow travelers from somewhere else that wanted an opportunity to live in a city and on a budget and meet other travelers.
Yeah.
And so I look them up. I scroll through the options in Google, and I see this one that has like all these crazy murals and stuff. Drifter Jacks. Like, that sounds appropriate. It's named after Jack Kerouac.
Nice.
And so I call him up. I'm like, hey, you guys looking for work trades? The manager answers, actually, we are.
Nice.
Can you send me your resume? Next day, I send him my resume. He emails me back, can you do an interview? So I'm like, I'm not going to ride to the city even. I don't have a guaranteed place yet. And he's like, oh, we do a video interview. Next day, we do a video interview. He's like, all right, start Monday. So it's like, I call him on Wednesday, send the resume on Thursday, do the video interview on Friday. I ride into the city on Saturday, stay with my childhood swim coach who lives here in town. Let me crash at his place for the night. And then the next day I move in to the hostel, and I wanted to be in Austin by by June 22nd to see the Odessa concert. I'm a big Odessa fan. I'd never seen them live before, but I'd listened to their music a lot. It was like one of those artists that I would turn to, and I'm bonking up a mountain, and I need that extra oomph to like keep me going. And it was real emotional. You know, I cried, all that shit. How Did I Get Here is one of their songs, and it was one of those moments where I would always say to myself, like, it would come on shuffle at those weirdly appropriate moments where I'm like, how did I get here?
Yeah. How the fuck did I get here?
And so the next morning I started work, and then I did a work trade, like room and board. So you'd work 24 hours a week, front desk, but I'd never been to the city before. So I'm the guy at the front desk with the tourist coming in. What's there to do in this town? I've never been here. I don't know. I can't tell you that. So I had to like get out there and see all the things. So I browsed Do 512, and you'd write the events on the event board and the weather, and we'd host pub crawls and movie nights and family dinners, and like take tours down to Barton Springs or down to Blues on the Green. And I kind of fell in love with Austin, like the charm of the city. Like,
so you were kind of forced to get out there and explore it, and then and by doing so, you kind of just something struck a chord with you.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing was, like I said, I never planned on staying here. My goal was to save up some money, buy a new frame set, transfer all my components onto that new frame set, and then get the fuck back on the road and finish what I started. Ride down to Key West, make it to Puerto Rico, and then ride back up the East Coast, and then home to Louisville, where hopefully I write the book and then publish it, and then who knows what happens next. That's kind of the like.
That's podcast too.
In a perfect world,
yeah,
I'd be Anthony Bourdain and Hunter S. Thompson rolled into one through the lens of bicycle travel. Is what I'm trying to achieve in a documentary standpoint.
Hopefully next time we talk, that'll be the case.
Yeah, maybe hopefully the next time it's like we'll be the show. We'll be on like Travel Channel or something. But so what ultimately ends up happening is I reach out to the local cycling community. And I make my rounds around the bike shops, seeing if anybody has like a used frame or something that would work in its place. And this guy, Wes Williams, who is accredited as the inventor of the 29er.
Ooh, I need to talk to him.
He kind of, you really should. He had a bike company named Willits. They made handmade bicycles for years. And now he works for Precision Pedicab, and they're like the nicest pedicabs like out there. Steel tubing. But he like comments on my post on Social Cycling Austin. Swing by the shop, man. I'll take a look at it. Fucking puts my bike up on there, sands it, TIG welds that shit.
Oh yeah, you
back
welded
together,
it. Yeah,
right there on the spot.
Yeah.
Boom. Good as new. I don't need to pay, all this money to get a new frame and transfer everything. Like, put a Band-Aid on my baby, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
Only I still didn't have any money. So I end up working a number of odd jobs. I actually helped the Texas Bicycle Coalition move. I stopped by Bike Texas to take a picture of their sign. Met one of the people. Oh, you're traveling. You want some work? We're moving. So I was deconstructed and reconstructed, and just moved, ripped out all the shit and reinstalled it at their new location. A good little contract work. Hey,
come take a seat. Anywhere is comfortable for you. Yeah, it's nice.
And then somebody else that I met through the social cycling community, my very first social ride, when I got to town, I was on my way to the meetup spot. I saw a couple. It looked like they were heading there. I'm like, you guys going on a social ride? I'm like, yeah. I was like, I just got to town, riding across the country. Like, yeah, that's cool. We had each other on Facebook. Some time later, he's messing with me, let's go grab a drink sometime. We never ended up getting around to it. And he said, hey, I got some work for you if you want to do some work. Like, for sure. And then he's like, hey, can you be here on Friday? And I end up becoming like a producer's assistant, and like shooting commercials for like USAA auto insurance and stuff. And, like, I'm doing the clapboard, like just random connections through like the bike community. So working all these little
bike touring sounds perfect for somebody with ADD.
Oh man, I can't even finish one of these stories.
Well, I'm saying, I mean, as a person with ADD, it appeals to me because you get bored with things so quickly. It's like, well, as a production person this day, and then, I'm doing pizzas here, I'm doing a restaurant here, I'm making marble here.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm walking dogs. I was making, hundreds of dollars a week just walking dogs and house sitting and going and feeding people's cats when they go out of town on the weekend and shit like that. But it's not consistent. You can't like budget or plan for that.
Shit, nothing about my life is consistent.
And I'm used to, working on a bike messenger budget and working on a server's budget where all of your work is performance based and it's tip based. So like, then just recently, randomly, I had this kind of like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday job kind of fall in my lap. And so I took it because, I have health insurance. So like, hopefully I'm not doing this forever. It's not like my favorite thing in the world to be doing, but I like not being broke.
What is your plan? When I mean, you're stopped here for how long until you get back on the road? When is that fateful Monday?
The fateful Monday is really just kind of like a non-existent it's just like it's like a feeling that you have when you find a place that feels like home and you don't want to leave. Where it's like, I'm leaving Monday, like, I could stay here a little while. So it's kind of more of like an ideology or a mindset. And the funniest thing is, like, I don't think I've ever left anywhere on Monday. Like, it always ends up being like a Tuesday or something like that, or a Wednesday. Shit, when I finally left San Diego after being there for like 2.5 months, I left at like sunset on a Friday night.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like riding inland over the, I only made it like 20 miles that first night after.
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I first found out about you, I mean, it's been months and months ago.
When did you start following along?
I don't know. It was probably like a year ago.
Was I in Arizona or?
Oh man, I don't know.
No.
My memory is terrible. Don't ask me hard questions. I don't know where I was a year ago, much less where you were a year ago.
I just see like Facebook memories. I'm like, oh.
Yes. Oh shit, I forgot about it. Well, you posted that intro. I was like, oh man, I didn't even remember I did that. On the way up here, you posted that intro to my show.
Oh, when you
your conversational tour guide through a digital galaxy, or I don't remember what it was.
It was a good.
It's like I don't even remember doing that.
A good choice of words. I feel.
Thank you. I just make it up as I go along.
Yeah, same here.
Hey, but it was funny because, like, I was planning on interviewing you in College Station.
Yeah, because I figured, I was like, I'm just passing through town. Like, eventually, I'll crash on his couch for the weekend.
Like 100 miles west of me.
And I was stuck here, and I never.
So I had to come to Austin to interview you.
Hey, but I'm glad you're here. I'm not mad about being here. Like, I'm pretty.
You're obviously
content.
not mad. You got a girlfriend. You got an apartment. You got a job.
And that's the thing. It's like, after having resented that like traditional societal expectation of you go to school, you get a job, you go to work, you pay the bills, you get the house, you get the wife, you get the kids. Like, I went to school, and then I kind of abandoned all that. And not like in spite or like resentment, but just like to be a nomad and like live in the moment and do that whole thing. But then after having done that for so long, you get the tiniest taste of like a domestic life, where it's like, you wake up in the same place every day, you go to sleep in the same place every day, you have the grocery store that you go to, or the park, or like you have like some sense of routine that you like find that the comfort in that. And I don't want to say that I'm like complacent, because I still have that like urging desire to like wander and explore and roam and get lost and be out there in the middle of nowhere and experiencing that. But like, I'm really pretty happy where I am, and I feel like the cycling community and the scene is very strong here. Like, there's a lot of different aspects of, from the adventure cycling and the gravel racing with Troublemaker and Beat the Clock and Cycle East and Eastside Pedal Pushers and Bike Farm, and like all these different groups and clubs and shops and organizations, to the social cycling community and the Bicycle Advisory Council, and like volunteering, taking kids from the School for the Blind on tandem bikes.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was
like,
cool.
There's so much going on in the Austin cycling community, and there's a lot of.
That's the thing, is like there's still a lot of stuff you can explore here.
And there's so many different.
It goes from a macro exploration to a micro exploration, but.
And the trail systems are really nice too. Like the creeks, like Waller Creek, Shoal Creek,
Onion,
Greenbelt, Onion. Yeah, like there's a lot that can offer too. I haven't really had an opportunity yet to delve into the mountain bike scene. I've dipped my toe a little bit in some of the gravel roads, the outlying communities. I'm just trying to like network with more people to get more opportunities to go check out these routes, because I feel like from the original premise of the pedals and pools, nowhere else in the country have I found that has this many like accessible swimming holes from a major metropolitan area.
Yeah, there are a lot around here.
So you have like the music, the culture, the nightlife, the ethnic diversity, the food scene, the progressive politics of a liberal city in the little island of the conservative state. So everybody floods here, and it's just that much weirder and a little crazier. But then, there's no mountains, there's no ocean, there's the lake, there's the river, and there's hills. Some of them have some pretty steep grades. So, but I feel like the swimming holes and like some of that outdoor recreation that's easily accessible within the area, or even within the city limits, somewhat makes up for that. Like, but having been from a very similar place, 500 feet above sea level, on a bed of limestone, in a river valley, in rolling foothills, like Louisville and Austin, like geographically, are pretty similar. And the climates are also somewhat fairly temperate. I mean, summers are a little hotter here, winters are a little colder there. But
put it mildly,
after being out in places like, the Pacific Coast and having all those giant cliffs, or being in the desert and having the Sky Islands, man, like I'm obsessed with sky islands, dude. That's like my favorite thing in the world, to be able to travel vertically through microclimate pockets and ecosystems and see the change in the plant and animal species.
Yeah.
Like Mount Lemmon, for example. You're in the Sonoran Desert. You're basically like in Mexico, like in like, you know, surrounded by saguaro cactus and tumbleweeds and succulents and palo verde and mesquite trees and snakes and scorpions and spiny lizards. And 26 miles later, you're at 2 feet of snow at the summit of a 9,000-foot mountain with an observatory with bears and big cats and bald eagles and conifers and pine trees.
Yeah.
And it's just slices, like, and you can see it all. It's the equivalent of traveling, you know, 300 miles in latitude for every 1,000 feet you rise in elevation. So you basically follow the continental divides, like the rock features and everything, from Mexico to Canada in a 26-mile road. It's like Catalina's scenic island in the sky scenic byway, like 7,000-foot climb from like the desert to a ski resort.
Yeah.
Like,
man, I can't wait to hear some more of these stories around the campfire tonight.
oh yeah, there's the first time I rode Mount Lemmon, that I slept in an electrical generator shack at the summit of the mountain, because like I hadn't planned it accordingly. I'd underestimated it. I started too late. I ran out of water. Met this like old Italian cyclist on like a Pinarello or a Cerveo or something that had come from there just to ride Mount Lemmon. And I was like, where's the next place to get water? I'm like halfway up the mountain. He's like, dude, turn around, man. Go back down. Like, what do you do? Like,
Yeah.
he's like,
No water up here.
he's like, he gave me his water. And then there was like a lodge, like at the ski resort. There's like a little restaurant, and I was going to stop, but then like there's a gate that goes all the way up to the very, very summit, where there's the University of Arizona's astrological observatory up there.
Oh, I know where. Yeah.
And I was
saw
like,
that.
I want to get up there. And then that's where the gradients kick up, and there's like black ice on it. And it's like, you know, 15, 18% grade in spots. But the gate was closed. There's no traffic. I get up to the top, and I'd met somebody, actually the lady that owned the float center in Tucson was friends with an astronomer. I was like, yeah, you can probably stay up there. Sometimes they let students and stuff like come look at the telescopes. And it's like, get up there, and it's illegal to have your lights on because the light pollution affects the telescope.
Yeah.
So I blast my lights at the place. I start signaling SOS, like, because the dude got in my head. He's like, he looked at me square in the eye. I was like, don't come back down this mountain tonight. He's like, if you're gonna go up, I was like, dude, I've invested too much. Like, I came like, I'm already halfway up it. Like, we might as well finish it out. And he's like, don't come back down this mountain tonight. And so I got to the top and waited, and I was like, dude, this is too dangerous. Like, and plus I wanted to see it. 7,000 foot descent, you know, like, and there's a false top where you have an 800 foot descent and then an 800 foot climb and then so it's like 8,000 feet altogether both ways. And I ended up just like walking over by the cell phone tower and like finding a door that was open. Like, fuck, I'm sleeping in here. I'm like shivering, like literally laying on this cold concrete, like with puffed air into like Ziploc bags so that I wasn't touching directly on the concrete. It was like, I am warm. Like saying that to myself.
Yeah.
And then like
I've been there.
Waking up, peeing in the middle of the night and looking at like the fact that I was like exposed to like massive amounts of radiation where I was. And I was like, wow, this is probably not how. I was just like, wait till the sunrise and get the fuck out of here. Rode down to the ski resort, and then like got like it. The diner wasn't open yet, the like little lodge, and I like hung out, had coffee like in the where people were renting their skis and shit, and went and had breakfast and bombed down the mountain. It's still one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And then the second time I went back when Lael Wilcox was doing one of her things.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh dude, I'm gonna fucking ride with Lael. Dude.
She just did another thing up
she
there.
She dropped me like less than 2,000 feet up the mountain.
Yeah,
like,
that's what she does.
Immediately, like she's on the Diverge, like a down coat. And like I caught her on the second lap. Like I started going up, and she passed me on the descent. I turned around and got with her, and then we went up, and I just watched her go. I was like, oh. But
I've watched her ride away a couple times.
I was gonna give her a marble because I wanted her to hide one in Alaska, and I went to the top, and that's when I hid the marble at the top the second time that I went there. And I came back down. Actually, this like the second half. I came back down like around sunset, but I'd been up and down the mountain, you know, like a couple times to know it and be like comfortable with descending in the dark and be like, at least it's not that like freezing in a generator shack with no overnight gear.
All right. We got to wrap it up.
Yeah. I'll never stop. You got to cut
Interview number 2 is lying in wait.
I know, yeah.
Hopefully she's ready.
Hopefully you talk more in this one.
Well, I think it's so cool that people like you are out there in this world, man. Like, I mean, like we said, I'm the husband and the father and got the house, and
I want all that one day.
But yeah, you do.
Well,
and
were you that 10 years ago when you were my age?
Was I what?
The husband and the father and all that?
Yeah.
10 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
How old your kids are.
Yeah, I've been doing it a while. I've been doing it a while. So there's definitely a part.
Well,
I'm
behind in the time. I'll catch up.
But that's what I'm saying is it's like I appreciate that there's people like you in the world, and probably on some level you're like, oh yeah, like Patrick, he seems like he's got it together. I don't,
right.
But maybe from your perspective.
Well, like I said, I got like that one. I got that one little taste of domestic bliss.
Yeah,
like, oh,
you might never leave Austin. We'll see.
Well, dude, I mean, she's only got a couple-year visa, man. She may be going back to Spain.
You might be going with her. I hear Spain is good for touring.
I definitely. There's like a historic like kind of mission trail type thing, like a pilgrimage.
Yeah, you can do that. All right, so I'm gonna do an interview, and you're gonna go get groceries. Is that what?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I may set up my camp and then go grab groceries. What time is it? We got like an hour of sunlight.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll
dude. Thanks for having me.
Keep it going over the campfire.
Yeah, we'll extend this.
Oh, mention your Instagram so people can keep up if you ever do get back on the road.
Sure. I mean, I do plan on.
I'm jabbing at you, but what is your Instagram?
It's Nightmare the Rusty Robot, or hashtag I Rode Here from Kentucky. So it's I Rode Here from Kentucky.com. I Rode Here from Kentucky on Facebook. If you Google that, it should link you to everything.
Good branding.
Yeah, and that there's a funny story behind how that.
All right,
I'll have to save it for next time.
Hey, there'll be many more.
Thanks, man. It was a pleasure, Patrick.
All right, yeah, I enjoyed it, man.
Being here.
I'm glad to hear your story.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get everything set up before it gets too dark out here.
All right, thank you everybody for tuning in to this week's episode of Bikes for Death, and thank you to Drew for taking the time and making the journey all the way to Austin, Texas. You couldn't make it to College Station. That's okay. I forgive you. You made it all the way this far. I guess I can go over to Austin and interview you. Whatever. It was a good time, man. That was a fun experience to get to, what I did is I'm only like an hour and a half from Austin, and there's so many people there there's just so many people there, so many rad people there. It occurred to me that I should really be taking advantage of that. And this was kind of the first test drive of that idea. Going to McKinney Falls State Park, setting up the Van or Death, camping, and scheduling some interviews, all to take place outside, either at a park bench or in the van, depending on whether they're at McKinney Falls State Park. And it's just a great getaway. There's great mountain bike trails there. It's a beautiful setting, so I can kind of take a little trip from College Station, get in a beautiful spot, and coordinate some interviews with some really cool people. So it's kind of like a win-win. I'm really enjoying it. So I think what I'm going to try to do is make that happen once a quarter. So every 4 months, head out to Austin and seek out some of those people who are hiding in the rafters and the woodworks of the Austin architecture in the bikepacking community, saying words, doing things, being awesome. Speaking of awesome, want to give a quick shout out to all the people who have signed up on Patreon recently. It's been pretty great, actually. When you put out something for free that is targeted towards a group of people, a community, a demographic that you are wanting to belong to and feel a part of, and have that community support you and give you their damn money, I mean, it feels like really good. Now, wish me luck, as I am only 10 days away from the Grand Gravel 500. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little scared. My personal life has been an absolute tornado. If you're kind of curious about my personal life, I get into a lot of that on Shifting Gears, so you can get that on Patreon. I didn't mean for that to be so entwined with my personal endeavors and my personal life, but the fact is that my personal life is the thing that impacts my ability to go and participate in an event like that the most, right? So it's been an interesting journey. And like I said, if you're interested in hearing a little bit about it, that is available over on Patreon. Otherwise, wish me luck. That race kicks off on March 19th at 5 a.m. Rain or shine, cold or wet, I will be there. And my goal for this year's race is to push myself to the limits. I'm not much of a racer. I've only done one bikepacking ultra endurance race in my entire life, and that was the Grand Gravel 500 back in 2018. I finished in it was 4 days and some change. It was very, very slow. I learned so much. And what's going to be interesting to me going forward into this event, I'm more experienced now. I have more knowledge. I have the benefit of having talked to some amazing athletes and ultra endurance people and just regular people who have done some incredible things. So I'm going into this event very undertrained, underprepared in terms of fitness compared to where I was 2 years ago. But I feel like I have a huge advantage in the knowledge and confidence and experience side of things. And even the examples, like even knowing that Sophiane can go for 3 days straight without sleeping, like that is possible while you're riding your bike. How far can I go? It's a question mark. Nobody knows. I don't know. But I'm curious to find out. So this year, I'm not interested in finishing. Finishing would be a bonus. I want to finish. But more importantly, I want to push myself. I want to push myself to the furthest extent of my personal ability with all the crazy shit that's going on in my life right now, the limited time that I have, work, kids, family, blah, 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 right? All that considered, what is my personal limit? That's what I want to find out. I want to find out for me, and I also want to find out as an exercise to grow closer to some of my guests. I very much consider myself a Cat 3 bike packer, if you would. Just kind of getting my feet wet. I know a few things, but I also know I have a lot to learn. I know that there's greater distance to travel. There's higher peaks to climb. But oftentimes these days I find myself sitting down and having a conversation with people who are pushing the boundaries of human capability. And it occurred to me that I can't relate. I can kind of understand. I understand that you can push yourself. I understand that mental barriers are just that. They're limits in your mind that are created by yourself, by previous experiences that are put in place to protect you. But the question mark still remains, what happens when you push past that? What does that look like? So that is the biggest question that I'd like to answer this year. So if you'd like to hear more about my preparation, if you'd like to follow along with this event and get more insight to the shit show that is most certainly to ensue, please do me a favor, head over to Patreon. It's only $1 a month or more if you want to, but number one, it means a lot to me. It is the main way that I support this show. And I'm trying to add extra value to you by bringing you along for my experience of the Grand Gravel 500. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. I will try to get another one out next week before I hit the race, but if life gets crazy, it might come after. We will see how it goes. But in the interim, you know what to do. I know what to do. Let's all go ride our damn bikes.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes.